Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of Medway's Full Council. As usual, this meeting has been live streamed via the Council's website, and I would like to welcome everyone who is watching online, as well as everyone present here tonight. My chaplain, the Reverend Edward Wright, is currently away at his son's wedding, and the Reverend Luke Bacon from St John's in Chatham, who is already known to many of us, has kindly agreed to attend this evening to say a few words and our prayers. Luke, thank you.
Privileged to be here. The Mayor's already stolen my opening lines where I was going to say that probably the most astute among you may have noticed that I am not the Reverend Edward Wright. But it's a real privilege to be here. As mentioned, I am one of the ministers at St John's, Chatham. Some of you in this room this evening had the joy of being at a pre-opening event in that building yesterday morning. And you will know, I think probably everyone in this room, I hope, will know that we are on a significant journey of restoration and renewal. And I'd like to thank everyone in this room for your dedication to the bettering, the improvement, the regeneration of this wonderful community. But I'd particularly like to thank those who've had the vision and tenacity to fight for and advocate for the renewal of St John's, Chatham. It was mentioned at the event yesterday that somehow the stones of that building on Railway Street seem to be interlinked with the fate or perhaps the vitality of Medway. And so we believe that in being reopened, in being restored, and in being renewed, we exist perhaps as a prophetic sign of the current state and the future hope of this beautiful place. In thinking of restoration and renewal, I'd love to very briefly read some words from the Old Testament book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 61 reads this: "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." It continues, "They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations." And so let's take a moment to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, our prayer for this meeting is that in our discussions and deliberations and decisions, we might be inspired by the Spirit of the living God, who loves to restore and to renew and to rebuild. I pray that we might all know the joy of collaborating and creating alongside that same Spirit that brings order from chaos, that brings unity where there was once division, that brings hope and peace where there was once despair and animosity. So guide our discussions and bless us, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Luke. Apologies for absence. Councillor Peake, are there any apologies for absence for this meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies from Councillor Brown and Anna Shom, and also apologies for lateness from Councillor Stamp.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp, are there any apologies?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I have an apology from Councillor Doe, and Councillor Anang gives his apologies. He's on his way, but will be arriving shortly.
Thank you. Councillor Sands, are there any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No apologies from our group.
Thank you. Councillor Vi, any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or any other significant interests from members of the council? If you have one, please clearly describe the nature of your interest to the bench. No? Thank you very much. The record of the meeting. Is it agreed that I sign the minutes of the meetings held on the 24th of April, the 14th of May, and the 26th of June as an accurate record? Thank you, members. My announcements. I would like to begin by sharing some sad news. Councillor Bowen's mother passed away last week, and on behalf of all members, I offer my deepest condolences to Councillor Bowen and her family during this difficult time. Moving on, I would like to give you some advance notice of the following mayoral events taking place later this year to help fundraise for our mayoral charities Caring Hands in the Community and Slideaway. In October, we'll be having a charity dinner with entertainment at Spice Fusion, and on 29th of November, there will be a special Christmas event at Eastgate House with a theatrical production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. As always, further information and tickets are available from my office. Now, members will be aware that we agreed to make some changes to the council rules permanent at our April meeting. However, there is still one element we are trialling. This is on the number of speakers on motions as follows. To limit the number of speakers per motion to the proposer and seconder, plus up to 10% of each group, rounding up as follows. The Labour and Cooperative Group, 4. Conservative Group, 2. Independent Group, 1. Reform UK Group, 1. Independent members, 1. The same number of speakers will be allowed for each amendment to a motion. Because these are changes to the council rules, I move that we suspend council rules to facilitate these changes. Is that agreed? Agreed. Please can I remind members, particularly those of you who choose to stand up when speaking, to speak clearly into the microphones to ensure people in the public gallery and watching the live stream can hear properly. And please remember, if you're turning your heads, we're probably not picking up the feed. So can members also ensure that written copies of any amendments are brought up to the top table first? And finally, we say this every time, I would also ask all members to only interrupt another member while they are speaking if there is a genuine point of order or point of personal explanation to be made. Thank you. May I now call on the Leader of the Council to make any announcements?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Only one quick announcement, and that's to recognise that most viewers online watching tonight's meeting will probably log off at 7:59 and tune in to cheer on the Lionesses as they take on Sweden. So on behalf of all of Medway, we send them our very best wishes.
Thank you, Councillor Maple. Petitions. Are there any members of the public that wish to hand in a petition? If so, please come straight to the microphone and read out the title of the petition.
Hempstead as an extending into the aviation business park in the future for Hempstead residents.
Thank you. Please could I ask you highlight the name of the lead petitioner on your petition and leave the petition on the table for collection.
With Parker. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Thank you. Will any councillors now indicate if they wish to hand in a petition? Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Stoke Parish Council has asked me to submit a petition entitled Help Save the Lower Stoke Car Park, which contains 1,368 signatures. And the lead petitioner is Jennifer Allen. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other member? Councillor Spalding.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to Rule 7, Petitions and Appendix A, I hereby present a petition on behalf of the residents of All Hallows. It's entitled the All Hallows Road Safety Petition. Due to an increase in speeding motorists, frequent wide loads and vehicle queues making certain roads unsafe, they're calling upon Medway Council to make these roads safe. I am in fact the lead petitioner and my details are with the petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peake.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a petition on behalf of Snodhurst House. Lead petitioner is Pat Cooper. The residents of Snodhurst House, Wayfield Road in Chatham, call on Medway Council to provide a safe place to cross the busy Wayfield Road to enable pedestrians to access the bus stop opposite. We further call on Medway Council to review the existing signage on lampposts on both sides of the road as to their visibility, positioning and correct depiction of elderly people in the vicinity and where necessary to install additional signage. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other member? Members, if you could leave your petitions on the table, Democratic Service staff will collect those at the end of the meeting. Moving now to public questions. We have 40 minutes to deal with the 2 public questions on the agenda. We have given an undertaking that people will be able to read out their questions, so I will shortly call the questions out in the order printed on the agenda. Public questioners unable to attend this evening have been allowed to send a representative to read out their questions, or the question will be put by me on their behalf. Only public questioners attending in person will be able to ask supplementary questions. Please, would those who are asking questions come to the microphone at the front of the public gallery, and may I remind those who are called upon to answer questions that those answers must not exceed 3 minutes. I would like to advise the public questioners that they may each ask 1 short supplementary question, which should be a concise question. Long preambles and statements will not be permitted. Members' answers to supplementary questions also may not exceed 3 minutes. If there are any questions not dealt with tonight, which let's hope they're not, they will receive a written response instead. Vivian Parker, please come up to ask your question.
As you may be aware, a planning application has been lodged to build 500 homes on the site of the old gasworks in the Strand. But unfortunately, the ground survey has revealed the presence of cyanide and asbestos, amongst other hydrocarbon-type pollutants. Can the council confirm this site is on the highly polluted sites register?
Councillor Curry, would you please respond?
Thank you very much, Vivian. Thank you, Mayor Clark. Thank you for your question. The site is not recorded on any register at present. However, more detailed information on this location can be obtained by following the process on the council's website, and I will ask Democratic Services to contact you with specific web link after tonight's meeting. I'd like to add that the owner completely recognises the contamination issues on this site and has experience of dealing with similar former gas holder sites elsewhere in Kent. In these cases where planning permission has been granted, the contamination issue has been dealt with appropriately and the developments have successfully been delivered. I should add, I've also met with the developers myself, and they've given me a lot of reassurance on their expertise in this field. I would also point out that Medway has a long history of redeveloping contaminated sites, and I would draw your attention to Rochester Riverside being one in particular. And then in particular, I mentioned the local plan, which is currently now in the draft Regulation 19 consultation stage, and there identified 40% of new development for homes just under, will be on brownfield sites. So that's a very important issue that you've raised and something that we're very aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Vivian, would you like to ask a short supplementary question?
Can the council assure me that the local residents and people living nearby will be kept safe from the escape of pollution from this site during the remediation process?
Councillor Curry?
The answer to that question is yes, I can. As I say, this company is very experienced at this kind of work, all of which takes place in fairly dense urban areas, and they have a very good track record of keeping the pollution under tight control and making sure contamination is not released.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas Chan, please come up to ask your question.
Very often, infrastructure comes after development. Right now, there are business opportunities and a new care home planned at Medway's Innovation Centre. Also, it is widely reported that Medway Council sat on unused Section 106 money. Will councillors use these opportunities to improve transportation choices for Chatham residents, such as extending bus route 185 to the future developments right across Fort Hempstead? Thank you.
Councillor Curry, would you please respond?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chan, and thank you, Mayor Clark. Can I first clarify a point on Section 106 money? It would be incorrect to say that Medway has sat on Section 106 money. The annual infrastructure funding statement, the next one of which is due in December, is a point in time and sets out what agreements have been made, what money has come in, what money has been spent, and then sets out the further infrastructure planned contributions. So contributions are received every week. Relevant schemes are being funded and delivered every week, and that means there is a regular turnover of Section 106 funding. Sometimes a big scheme is necessary, such as a new school, and in this respect that may be funded from a number of contributions, and as a result the Council will hold on to early contributions until all funding has been received. That is quite normal, and it is not the Council sitting on funding. The Council is absolutely committed to delivering the infrastructure necessary to mitigate development using Section 106 contributions. Turning to public transport, this is a vital part of our sustainable future. We're in regular discussions with bus operators to improve services, making them more efficient, accessible and environmentally friendly. In some cases, such as the recent improvements services to Cliff Woods and Cliff, these upgrades have been supported by Section 106 funding. Specifically, regarding bus route 185 and the developments at Fort Hempstead, we recognise the growing demand for better transport links in this area. While there are no confirmed plans to extend this route at present, we are actively working with Arriva and other bus companies to explore the feasibility of a service enhancements that reflect local needs. It is also worth noting that Arriva 101 and 176 services already operate nearby. Where appropriate, we will seek to use Section 106 contributions to support improvements in line with our bus service improvement plan and our local bus infrastructure plan. We are committed to ensuring that public transport keeps pace with development and offers residents a real alternative to car use.
Thank you. Nicholas, would you like to ask a short supplementary question?
Yes. Turning still to Section 106 money, will the Council be able to assure me and residents that with the local plan in place and debating through Medway Council, that the Section 106 money will be used wisely and whereby it will be within public trust to use it appropriately in a short duration? Thank you.
Councillor Curry.
Thank you very much for your supplementary question. The answer to that question is yes, I can. The Section 106 funding will come as part of the developments that take place once the local plan has gone through its final approval from the Secretary of State, and we will make sure that 106 fundings are part and parcel of delivery. And just as a final point, colleagues may know that I have a passion for buses, so getting better bus services in Medway is a high priority for a personal reason for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Come now to motions. I call upon Councillor Finch to propose the motion at item A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow councillors, Mr. Mayor, I rise to move this motion in support of a temporary blue badge concession scheme for Medway residents who are being unfairly excluded by the current system. Many of you will have seen the Kent Online Blue Badge Battle campaign. It tells powerful human stories, stories of cancer patients, of people recovering from traumatic injuries, residents who can barely walk, who are undergoing chemotherapy, or have suffered life-changing accidents. These are people who, despite severe mobility challenges, are being told they don't qualify for a blue badge because their condition might not last 3 years. Seriously, this isn't about bending the rules or undermining national standards. It's about recognising a gap in the system. a gap that is causing unnecessary hardship, anxiety and isolation for some of the most vulnerable in our communities. This campaign has already won support from all 18 Kent MPs. It's been raised in Parliament, and I'm pleased to report that officers here in Medway are actively exploring how we might do something locally. I thank Jeremy Shelton for his thoughtful response and his engagement on this. But as councillors, we have the opportunity, nay the duty, to show leadership on this issue. This motion calls on Medway Council to take 3 clear steps. First, to support in principle the creation of a temporary badge concession scheme for people with serious but time-limited conditions. Second, to work with officers and parking services to develop a workable, clearly communicated framework. And third, to push for a national change so residents in Medway get the same compassion and consistency wherever they need to travel. Some will say this is complicated and that we should wait for Westminster. But while we wait, residents are suffering. They're parking far from hospital entrances while undergoing chemo. They're isolated at home because they can't walk from the nearest bus stop. We can and should do better. Medway has a chance to be part of the solution, to show compassion, to say we see you, we hear you, and we will act. I urge members to support this motion as a common sense response to a clear injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finch. Is that supported? Councillor Vi, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right to speak later?
I reserve the right.
Thank you. Okay. I now open up to members. Councillor Maple, you're the first.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I'll be moving an amendment which will be circulated now.
Okay. Has every member had sight now of the amendment? Okay, thank you. Councillor Maple.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and it's good to see this excellent campaign being brought into this council chamber this evening. The amendment is a practical amendment, actually recognising that, to use that very old cliche, a week is a long time in politics. And actually, even since this has been drafted, I think it may even now be slightly out of date. And I'll tell you why before I finish. This is an important campaign, and let's recognise that, firstly, the important job that the Blue Badge system has for individuals and has had for many decades. It's also worth recognising that with any system, there'll be the opportunity to look carefully to see whether exceptional dispensations or parallel systems can be there to support and enhance the circumstances our residents find themselves in. So it's great to see all 18 MPs from across the region of Kent and Medway come together on this issue. It's great to see our local media outlet, and I'm a big fan of newspaper campaigns. We don't see as many of those as we used to. And I was really pleased to see, and this is part of the main reason for this, I was very pleased to receive the letter from Helen Grant on behalf of the 18 MPs. And I have already replied, and I will circulate that to all members, and very happy if that can be put formally in the minutes. I'd be grateful if that could happen, as I'm referring to it here. This amendment does a few things. Firstly, it recognises yesterday's Westminster Hall debate, where there were a number of strong contributions, including from our very own Tris Osborne, MP for Chatham and Aylesford. Of course, recognising this is a cross-party campaign with Tris, Mike Martin from Tunbridge Wells, and Helen Grant from Maidstone and Malling, and not Malling, as everywhere was calling it at the debate yesterday. It was good to hear Gareth Bacon, and it was also very good to hear the positive response from Lillian Greenwood, a genuine cross-party debate in Westminster Hall. There's more to be done on this. The reason this is already almost out of date is the conversation is moving on to us having a meeting in Medway potentially next week with colleagues from across the political parties from Westminster and a number of hard-working council officers. And I want to particularly highlight point 6 in our amendment, recognising that every single day hard-working officers are dealing with the circumstances of the law at current. So this is absolutely right to bring forward. There are some complications. This is not a straightforward process. Officers have been clear. So this might seem simple in paper, but we will need to work through it. And again, that's where that meeting will start that process. So very happy to move the amendment, and I'm hopeful for unanimous support on that basis. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Is that supported? Councillor Murray, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right, Mayor Clark.
We go out to members. Councillor Hackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to support this amendment, and I thank Councillor Finch for bringing the original motion, which has caused the debate, and also Councillor Maple for the amendment, which I understand is a tidy up of the original motion. Having had personal experience of this very issue as recently as last year, I fully support the amendment. Although hospitals often waive the fee for parking for patients that are receiving treatment whilst at hospital, it does not address the nearness and ease of access that is normally offered with a blue badge. My wife had several appointments at Guy's Hospital in London. There's a multi-storey car park adjacent to the hospital with ground floor parking for blue badge holders. Unfortunately, my wife did not have a blue badge, even though she was terminally ill at that time. This meant that I could not park on the ground floor and had to park several floors up and wheel her in a wheelchair up and down the ramps that vehicles used as the lifts were inoperative. This was not only very uncomfortable, but also very degrading for the patient. Right now, terminally ill people often have to go through lengthy, unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles to prove something that is already devastatingly clear. Their time is limited. We should not be forcing them to wait weeks or months for that help they need. Compassion shouldn't come with a waiting list. At its core, this campaign is about dignity, about recognising that people facing the final stages of life deserve support, not red tape. A blue badge is not just a piece of plastic, it's a lifeline. It means shorter walks to hospital appointments, easier access to vital services, and the ability to spend what precious time they have left with some measure of comfort and independence. As I have said, I'm fully supportive of this amendment, and it appears to be long overdue. I welcome the support of all 3 Medway MPs and the other 15 MPs in our region, led by Helen Grant, together with the Shadow Secretary of State for Transport, Gareth Bacon, MP. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Howcroft-Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues. I support this amendment, and I'm proud to add my voice to the growing call for urgent reform to our blue badge system. I survived cancer in 1979, yet it took me 6 attempts to have a blue badge. And obviously, I have mobility issues. Let me be absolutely clear, no one going through the daily struggle or serious medical conditions, whether long-term or time-limited, should have to fight for a basic human dignity. This isn't about convenience, it's about independence, and it's also about health and safety and humanity. I've had countless constituents in Luton and families across Medway approach me because I'm disabled, and they have all been fouled by the current system, and some of them are undergoing cancer treatment or long COVID, and one of them is an expected mother who has complications. So she's heavily pregnant and has a very similar story to what Councillor Hackwell has said. And individuals with serious mental health challenges as well. They are being told their conditions don't qualify and they're not considered permanent, but the pain and the fatigue and the risk is very real. We must recognise this, and the impact of the illness is not measured only in months and years, but it should be measured in the daily effect it has on life. For many, a blue badge is a difference between being able to pick your child up to school, get your medicine from the pharmacies, attend a hospital appointment, and do you know what? Have simply go to the shops to get your essentials. It can mean the difference between isolation and participation. I was encouraged to see our lovely MP for Chatham and Aylesford speak recently in Westminster Hall, and action must happen. I want to pay a tribute to all the cross-party people who have campaigned for this, especially those with lived experience who have put their courage and their time to speak up about this campaign, carers and organisations who've worked so hard to fight against this injustice. We must continue to push for a system that listens and that understands and acts in the best interests of people it's supposed to serve, because no one, absolutely no one, should be left behind because the system can't do what it's supposed to be doing. Let's make the blue badge system not only fair, but inclusive and compassionate, and this is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Reminder, we are speaking on the amendment. Councillor Emmis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really grateful to Councillor Finch for this original motion, and also to the Labour Group for their amendment, which I support. What I would say, though, is that the department responsible for the non-statutory guidance, which is very influential in developing council policy on this, lies with the Department for Transport. And their status quo, as I discovered a special advisor in that department, and also before in 2019 when I successfully managed to get the guidance updated back then to include hidden disabilities, the status quo default position in the Department for Transport is one of actually not just keeping things the same, but tightening up the criteria on blue badges. It is not one of trying to move in a direction. So notwithstanding the very good efforts of our local MPs and local councillors moving in this direction, I would be minded to advise against waiting for collective action and actually go down the route of doing the right thing first and utilising the powers that we have as an authority to do temporary additional schemes. Not only will this allow us to be a leader in this area and set the example, but also could actually help inform the debate at a national level and move it in the right direction. I would point out that the current waiting list for blue badge applications in Medway is 12 weeks. I think that should be a lot quicker than 12 weeks, especially as the focus of this motion is on the introduction of temporary blue badges, say. You know, some people may need it as a result of an operation and may be partially healed after a 12-week period. So I think we need to look as a council at significantly including that waiting time, which also extends to renewals, basic renewals. So there are two different types. There's the blue badge application on the grounds of automatic entitlement, and then there's the requires additional assessment criteria. That's where the hidden disability criteria falls in. I know first-hand examples of people applying for a renewal, which they have to do every 3 years, where they're not even required additional assessment, and they have a lifelong condition, nothing's changed, and their badge lapses, and then they have to kind of suffer for weeks and weeks and weeks. So anything we can do as a council to accelerate what we're doing already, I would be good, and I would encourage the Labour Group to take a stand, be bold, and sort this issue out and be as generous as we can be to our Medway residents, set the example, and not wait for a change that may not be as forthcoming as perhaps the local MPs might expect it ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spalding, a reminder we're speaking on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will support the amendment. It goes a little further to the most excellent motion brought originally by Councillor Finch. And when this was published, I, like many others, kept a watching brief and saw things evolve over time. I will support it for two reasons. One, like many in this room, I've had personal experience. I was the carer for somebody who was basically end of life and certainly had a short term to live. Having a blue badge would have made things so much easier. But I also speak as one of the 3 veterans on this council. And I see amongst my work in the veterans community the fact that there is actually a need for this sort of scheme, because as those who have served get older, the injuries, the fact that you put your body through all sorts of things over the time of your service, whether it's a number of years or whether it's the full 22 or more, you suddenly find that you do have to go in for surgery. It can take a long time. It can be life-changing. So on that basis, Mr Mayor, I will be supporting the amendment. I thank all colleagues for the debate, and I take on board what Councillor Lammas says. And as I say, I commend Councillor Finch for bringing this in the first place. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Turpin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and yeah, I thank Councillor Finch for bringing the original motion forward. I think it's not until you're in a position of sort of medical need that you realise that the current system perhaps doesn't work for you, and that there needs to be a bit more flexibility. So I thank him for bringing this forward. I agree with Councillor Lammas that I don't think we should be waiting to see sort of what other local authorities do and sort of be doing necessarily joint working. And I didn't think the administration was particularly taking any sort of views from Kent County Council at the moment anyway, so I'm surprised that they wanted to add that into the amendment. And I think the amendment is a little bit unnecessary really, especially if we're considering looking at reducing the times of our meetings, so bringing amendments forward is only adding on to that. So however, you know, I sort of understand some of the points in the amendment are necessary to make it a little bit clearer. And obviously it does give thanks to work that has already been done on this matter. So on those, for those reasons, I would be happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waddy, you've indicated you wish to speak. We've already reached the maximum capacity for the group on the amendment. I come back to Councillor Murray.
Clerk, and in supporting the amendment, I remind people that this is a tidying up amendment that recognises what has happened, as Councillor Maple said this week, that follows the need for very clear guidance, not only for all of the people who have got blue badges, but also for council officers who we ask to deploy them in this new scheme. And bringing in Kent County Council is critical, not just because of the fact that it exists at all, but because the NHS crosses boundaries and people having short-term treatment will actually move across Kent and, as you've said, Councillor Hackwell, actually across the whole of the country. So the idea of having the Westminster Hall debate was actually to make that point, that there are times in people's lives when they need flexibility. We hope in those cases, and of course very sadly it doesn't always happen, that people will have the ability to get better and no longer need that concession, and those concessions then can be passed on to other people who need them, making sure that we keep the system manageable. So it isn't the case that anyone is trying to score a point. It's actually incredibly important to get this right from the get-go, to put ourselves in a position where we can issue very, very clear guidance to anyone who needs this, make it happen quickly, but make sure that we're working with all of the right people to tie down any kind of misinterpretation and actually ensure that the people that this is intended for, and I accept that Councillor Finch was well-intentioned with his original motion, but it isn't possible just to do anything in 5 minutes. In fact, it's dangerous to do so. So the amendment gives us the time that we need to get things right, recognises that people will benefit a great deal from this kind of flexibility, and make sure that officers have got the guidance that they need, because they're the ones on the receiving end of disputes when they happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Go back to the mover of the amendments, Councillor Maple.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark, and can I thank colleagues across the chamber, particularly Councillors Hackwell and Howcroft-Scott, for sharing their personal experiences. That makes this debate even more powerful. I've circulated to everybody my letter, so you will have that in your inboxes. It's worth stating, just to pick up on Councillor Turpin's point, it's worth stating, just as a statement of fact, that the leader of Kent County Council received her letter before I received mine, and I have replied before her. Those are two statements of fact. So if anybody is leading this issue from a local government perspective, I'm really proud that in approximately 5 minutes and 20 seconds time, hopefully this council will unanimously send a clear message to say actually Medway wants to get on with this, but in an appropriate way. And I think it is worth just highlighting that, as I say, officers have raised a number of very practical, very sensible areas for discussion that we need to consider, because again, there are often unexpected consequences, and the last thing that anybody in this chamber would want to do is bring forward a new system which is there to help people, but then ends up having unexpected consequences. So absolutely, we will move at as a quicker pace as we can. And the reason for suggesting KCC may wish to be part of that conversation is, of course, what lots of residents won't want to see is a new scheme and then local government reorganisation happening. If there is one scheme across our region from day one, that would be eminently sensible. And absolutely agree that we're not hanging around. I hope that eventually there is legislation and strong statutory guidance that makes it clear for all councils, but we're not waiting for that. That's why we're here today. I welcome the original motion coming forward. It was timely in the sense of the correspondence I was in with Helen Grant on behalf of all 18 MPs, and I think we'll be sending a very clear, strong message to those residents who often don't wish to shout. They don't want to have their conversations heard because it's personal and private to them. But actually, I pay tribute finally to those residents who did go along yesterday to the Westminster Hall debate to actually share their personal experiences with the MPs who were there and with others. It's important we hear those voices, we continue to hear those voices, and this administration, working where we can on a cross-party, cross-council basis, where appropriate, will come up with a scheme which is fit for purpose, compassionate, and ready to go on day one. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
I will now go back to the mover of the original motion, Councillor Finch.
Nothing else to add. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The amendment has now become the substantive motion. Anyone wishes to speak on the...
need to go for the vote on the amendment first of all. So.
Apologies. Oh, we will need to go to the vote on the amendment. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much. And now we will move the amendment to the substantive motion. Does any member wish to add anything further? No, thank you. Do I have an indication or not? Sorry.
If I may, it's all very well giving out more blue badges, but will we, the council, put in more spots for the blue badge holders to use in our car parks? And much more importantly, will we try to encourage the hospital to do the same?
Very briefly, those are exactly some of the practical issues that officers have raised. I thank you for raising it because it shows the unexpected consequences if we don't think about all elements. So you're absolutely right, both to raise how does it work in practical terms and really importantly, the relationship with the NHS here in Medway and wider Kent if we have one scheme across the region. So I agree, and actually officers are on the same wavelength as you, Councillor Wilding.
Thank you. Is that agreed then, members? Thank you. The amendment is passed. I call upon Councillor Joy to propose the motion at item B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With this motion, it's good to see that the government has actually recognised that child's education is very, very important. And one of the things they've done is that they've recognised that hungry children do not learn as quick as contently fed children. And bringing in further free school meals to the most disadvantaged children in Medway, so extending the free school meals from Key Stage 1 for the most vulnerable of our children is a welcome addition to the schools in Medway. I've also noticed the £2.3 billion worth of funding to education across the country. And yes, it is a big number. But having heard rumblings with regards to the increase in national insurance costs to schools across Medway, and then finding out that there had been some changes to the original at the budget stating that these will be fully funded and then changing to a rate per pupil. We took it upon ourselves to send out a question to our schools, and it went out to every head teacher, chief executive of trust and chief financial officer of trust, that the email addresses were correct on the council's database. Of that, we got responses for over 60% of the schools in Medway. And the questions we asked was to do with the national insurance, and a number of them said they will be breaking even, but the worst case was a £37,000 per year less in funding than what they're paying in national insurance. And when we drill down into that number, some of this was to do with our schools having very experienced staff who have been in our schools for a long time. And something we've recently noticed from the recent Ofsted, that continuity within service ensures that we deliver a better children's service. So, being penalised on that. The other thing we asked was the general annual grant funding going to keep up with inflation? And I'm very surprised to get numbers of 1.9% cuts to their budget on GAG funding to 2% rises, which not any of them actually come near. And then the final thing is the government announced a deserved 4% increase in pay for our teachers, but then stating that 1% had to be found by schools and trusts through efficiency savings. Medway schools have mainly been quite lean in what they do, and any extra money gets ploughed back in to our children. This would range from supplying tablets, Chromebooks, to implementing forest schools, to ensuring that there's additional extracurricular activities for the school. And 1% efficiency saving to some of the schools in England is possible. But as Medway has been underfunded compared to other children, and this is looking just at the general annual grant. This is the grant that's given to every child, regardless. There is additional top-up for SEND, which is High Dependency Fund, but this is just a general grant, with our children being paid for per year up to £500 less than other children. And this has happened for a generation. This is failings by successive governments on our children in Medway. We've been lumbered, rightly or wrongly, with Kent schools, but we have some of the most deprived areas. Knowing through a member of my family went to school in the London Borough, they went on more school trips funded by the school. Going to school, regardless of how far you live, regardless whether you go to the nearest or the furthest school from you, transport is covered 100%. All of this is covered by our parents. And these unfunded rises is going to make the Chromebooks disappear, the tablets disappear, essential maintenance on some of our old buildings being pushed back. And it's just not fair. And the big reason for this is the inequality in the funding and inequity of the funding. So that's why I ask that this council doesn't just speak that children matter in Medway and proud to recognise the council as child-friendly Medway, but we take this opportunity to our actions to speak louder than our words and stand up for all our school children in Medway. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Tijan, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right to speak later?
Reserve the right, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm delighted to support Councillor Joy's motion on school funding, and I would like to thank Councillor Joy for his foresight and hard work in gathering the data from Medway schools that support this motion. It's no surprise that Medway schools have been keen to share their financial data with us. Once again, a government has awarded pay rises to teachers without fully funding those pay rises, leaving local authorities, schools and trusts in the invidious position of absorbing the unfunded amounts from depleted reserves. The settlement issue is made worse because of real terms cut in GAG funding, which has come as a genuine shock to trusts and governing bodies. The consequence of government decision is going to have an impact on the education of children. In my own trust, we have 4 schools in Medway. 2 of those schools are in highly deprived areas of Medway with a high SEND need. In one school, we have seen a decrease in GAG funding of 0.03% per pupil, and in other schools, we've seen increases of just 0.25% to 2.53%. I'm sure that even the members opposite will reflect that with inflation running north of 3% and the position for schools is dire. Not one school in our trust spanning Greenwich, Croydon and Medway has seen anything near an increase in pupil funding at or above inflation. For our trust, we've had to shelve a major IT project whose intention was to provide every child with a Chromebook, a major initiative in our inclusion strategy to ensure that every child has access to a device and provide staff with the ability to roll out highly personalised learning experiences to close gaps in learning. I'm sure that all members of this council will have seen the outcome of Medway's Key Stage 2 results, which shows that we've got a long way to close the gap between us and the national average. In opposition, Bridget Phillipson criticised the previous Conservative governments for funding of increases of just £50 per pupil, which compared to this settlement now looks very generous. Politics is about making choices, Mr. Mayor, and this government has made the choice to cut GAG funding. The policy of penalising children who attend private schools is having an impact right here in Medway, where a school established in the 1950s is now closed due to an imposition of VAT on school fees and other measures. The knock-on effect will be the loss of 150 places, increasing pressure on local school capacity. With the Labour government wrecking the economy, the outlook for school funding remains poor. The only way out of poverty is through a well-paid job and not through higher welfare payments. And a great education is the key to the element in that formula. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Coombs.
Thank you. This motion mentions decisions made by the government putting our children at risk. Well, let's look back at some Conservative policies since 2010 and their impact on children. In 2011, 12 and 21, teachers' pay frozen. In other years, Conservatives awarded teachers below inflation pay rises, none of which were fully funded. Schools met shortfalls from existing budgets, which at the same time were being cut in real terms, forcing many to make teaching and support staff redundant. These real-term cuts in pay fueled a teacher recruitment and retention crisis, with experienced teachers leaving the profession and a failure to meet teacher training targets, leading to shortage subjects being taught by non-specialists, class sizes increasing and classes being covered by unqualified teachers. In 2010, funding to early intervention services was drastically reduced, leading to the closure of Sure Start centres, including here in Medway. We campaigned against those closures. Medway Conservatives voted for them and put the money towards fireworks. The previous Labour government had a £55 billion investment programme in secondary school buildings and £1.9 billion investment in capital programmes for primary schools to ensure schools were safe, modern and fit for purpose. In 2010, Michael Gove scrapped these programmes. 715 schools already signed up did not have essential work carried out, and school buildings were left to deteriorate. Fast forward to 2023, when children were being evacuated from schools whose roofs were collapsing because of untreated rack. In 2022, this Conservative government stopped even pretending to prioritise education, with the top job being filled by 5 different people in 2 years, one of them lasting fully 2 days. Hearing all of this, you would imagine that letters from the Conservatives would have been flying out of Gun Wharf, protesting about what was happening, but you would be wrong. Contrast with the Labour government, after just 1 year, they have announced the second above-inflation pay award for teachers, beginning to put right the years of pay freezes, free breakfast available for all primary children, an additional 500,000 children from low-income families entitled to free school meals, school spending to increase by 4.7 billion by 2028-2029, taking per pupil funding to its highest ever level. 2.4 billion to be invested annually for the next 4 years in the school rebuilding programme, with a commitment to the current programme of rebuilding 500 schools. For the first time, funding for school maintenance will increase yearly with inflation. 2.6 billion available to fund extra school places for the future. 1.9 billion additional investment per year in new foundation apprenticeships. 370 million investment in school-based nurseries, and expansion of family hubs to support families. So we will not be supporting this hypocritical motion. We're immensely proud of the clear commitment this government is showing to our children and young people, and the value that they place on education and the teaching profession.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gibbon, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thank my colleague, Councillor Joy, for bringing this motion. And despite all the stats and figures that have been brought out tonight, particularly from the other side, I just want to concentrate on the motion. And the motion is perfectly reasonable in that it's asking the Secretary of State for Education to ask the government to honour the original commitments to fully fund the employers' national insurance increases, but particularly across all Medway schools. The other aspects about the cuts that schools are having to make because of the reduction in the GAG, the General Annual Grant, is quite a significant one. And whilst the need to take 1% out of budgets of schools to help fund the 4% pay rise for teachers is just an honest observation, which we think the Secretary of State needs to be made aware of. But particularly I support what Councillor Joy and Councillor Lawrence have said about the need to emphasise that this is about the people of Medway getting a fair deal. And without us putting a motion into the Secretary of State, they're not going to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Halcroft-Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We won't take any lessons from the shower across. 14 years of Tory failure. We have a plan for education. They never had a plan. We're delivering high quality and raising standards. We're starting with their failure of sure starts. We're delivering early education. We're supporting children to achieve and thrive. We're creating a better system of inspection and improving all schools. We're enabling school staff to help children to succeed. We're preparing young children for their future. We're equipping young people with experience that will get them ready for the world of work. And all what you did, cut, morale, roofs falling in at, as close as Gravesend Singlewell School. Don't give us rubbish, thanks. This motion is just trying to get back for your failures, which started with your coalition. No way. Vote against.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If it wasn't such a serious subject, I'd be having a good laugh at the level of hypocrisy and ludicrous rewriting of history that we've just heard. There are people in this chamber, including me, who remember your vindictive destruction of Sure Start in Medway, wanting to build with the money a concrete runway up at Rochester Airport that never happened and was never viable in the first place, as well as having a bit of a fireworks display. Shame on you. This government and our 3 MPs, for your assurance, Councillor Gilmore, do know what's happening in Medway, do care what's happening in Medway. We're working with them. Councillor Coombs has got a long history of a head teacher. She knows the slings and arrows that she and everybody else who is working in education, including me actually, had to suffer under 14 years of austerity. Already in my old profession, further education, the funding per full-time student has doubled It was 4,000, it's gone up to 7,500. That's what a Labour government is doing now. That's what we'll continue to do. We certainly won't be supporting your motion, and look to your consciences before you put another one like that.
Thank you. Councillor Amos, you've indicated to speak, but we've already had the maximum number from the group, but no other members, so I'll go to Councillor Tijan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I rise today from a firm principle support of this motion, because we're not here simply to comment announcements. We're here to confront reality. We welcome the rollout of the free school meals, Councillor Combs, and the headline figures of 2.3 billion in the national education funding. And a gesture towards supporting our children is welcome. But we cannot afford to stop at applause. We must interrogate and the substance behind any statement. Thank you for your detailed and determined work, our Shadow Cabinet Member for Children's Services and Education. We're no longer speculating. We are responding to verified data from Medway schools and academies. And that data speaks volume, Mr. Mayor. Let's take the first glaring issue here, national insurance funding. The government promised full coverage. What actually being delivered is a flat rate per pupil. Now, on paper, that must sound like a reasonable approach, but for schools in Medway, many with similar year groups, others with experienced long-serving staff, this formula produces shortfall up to £35,000 annually. That's not a rounding error. That's the cost of multiple support staff, vital intervention, or upgraded learning tools. It is a broken promise that actively destabilizes school budgets already stretched, Mr. Mayor. We are seeing fluctuations that once adjusted for inflation are not increases. They are cuts. Schools receiving 2% uplift are still facing a real-term loss of 5%. The current inflation sits at 3.2%. That's not progress, it's erosion. And all this comes as school attempts to meet rising demands for SEND provision. More needs for fewer resources is a contradiction that borders on cruelty, Mr. Mayor. While the 4% is deserved and long overdue, schools have been asked to fund 1% of it themselves. For many of Medway primary school, that means cutting support staff, as Councillor Joe said. For secondary school, it often translates to increasing class sizes. Both outcomes hurt our most vulnerable learners and stretch our education beyond sustainable limits. And let's not forget, we are starting from Kent and Medway. Where we are starting from. Kent and Medway are already among the worst funded regions in the country.
Councillor Tajan.
Thank you.
We now go back to the move of the original motion. Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Murray, when some people were planning on building an airport in Medway, I was protesting against the airport in Medway. So, don't know where you got your facts from. Councillor Coombs, very sad that you ignored the big issue for Medway schools. It's not the 4% pay rise and having to find 1%. It's not even to do with the gag funding. It's not even to do with the shortfall. It's the unfair funding formula that's been in for a generation. A generation, to me, is at least 20 years. And if you go back 20 years, that was a Labour government that brought that in. Successive governments have allowed that to happen, and I said that in what I said. So the big thing that could sort all of this is fair funding for Medway children, to be treated like other children from other areas. I'm not here to stand up for a child in London. That's not what I was elected for. But I was elected, along with every other member in here, to stand up for our children, to give them a voice, to make sure they're being treated fairly. And that's what this motion is asking to do. The big issue is looking at the funding. It needs to change. Medway children have suffered under successive governments for over 20 years, and it's about time that stopped. I would have hoped that the Labour group and all their rhetoric about children matter in Medway would have been able to see it's about time that the funding formula was made fair for every single child in England. Not just for certain areas, but every child in England. To ensure that they get equal opportunities for all children, regardless of background. And given the extra support which has come in, and we've acknowledged that extra support over the addition of free school meals to the most vulnerable, making sure that at least during school time they get that opportunity for a hot cooked meal, which a lot of us take for granted. We feel quite seriously on this matter. I've argued this matter since I was first on the council and saying we were unfairly funded against the funding formula. So that's for 10 years from the date when I first came on this council. And I feel so strongly of it, and the Conservative group feels so strongly of this, we were hoping that we'd get agreement to send this letter. And at the end of the day, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We will still send a letter because, to us, children matter in Medway. Mr Mayor, we'd like to call for a recorded vote on this.
I need 6 members standing, if that's the case. Thank you, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Members, we will now have a recorded vote on the motion at item B. I will call each member in turn and you will indicate whether you are voting for the motion or against the motion or whether you abstain. Councillor Anang. Councillor Barrett. Councillor Bowen. Councillor Brake. Councillor Campbell. Mr Mayor. For. Councillor Cook. Councillor Coombs. Councillor Crozer. Councillor Curry. Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Fern. Councillor Field. Councillor Filmer. Councillor Finch. Councillor Gilbourne. Councillor Golvin. Councillor Garoon. Councillor Hackwell. Councillor Hammond-Deshay. Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Halcroft-Scott. Councillor Hubbard. Councillor Hine. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Jones. Councillor Joy. Councillor Kemp. Councillor Lamas. Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Mahill. Councillor Mandarakas. That was against, thank you. Councillor Maple. Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Murray. Councillor Myton. Councillor Nestorov. Councillor Nestorova. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Peake. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Perfect. Councillor Luella Prenter. Councillor Mark Prenter. Councillor Price. Councillor Sands. Councillor Shockar. Councillor Spalding. Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Stamp. Councillor Tijan. Councillor Mrs Turpin. Councillor Van Dyke. Councillor Vi. Councillor Wildey. Councillor Williams. Mr Mayor, the motion is lost. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Okay, thank you, Councillor Scott.
Mr. Mayor, you kindly are very inclusive, and you mentioned at the beginning of this evening that you would like people to talk into their mic. I'm a bit loud because I'm using hearing supports, and over there, I mean, probably I don't want to hear the diatribe, but in the fair of equality and equal opportunities, I would like people, even if they are vertically challenged and have to stand up, to use their microphones so I could at least try to hear them, or even if they could look at me and I could use my lip reading skills. But, you know, please be fair, that's what I'm asking for, a bit of parity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howcroft-Scott. And again, that advice that we give at the beginning of the meeting does apply to all members. Please speak clearly into your mic for the benefit not just of those in the chamber, but for those listening online. I call upon Councillor Spalding to propose the motion at item C.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The valuable work our Overview and Scrutiny committees do was exemplified recently when executives from Southern Water on a member's item presented to and answered questions at one of the committees. Points raised and questions asked were probing and wide-ranging. I attended, even though I'm not on the committee, because Southern Water issues come up a lot in the All Saints ward. As the executive finished, I had a chat with them and spoke to them about ward issues, and they promised to be in touch. I've heard nothing. This seems to typify, in my view, and the view of a lot of my residents, the Southern Water approach. Now, as a councillor, I'm sure I'm not alone in saying not a week goes by without a complaint or an email coming in from residents about low water pressure, sewage, wastewater disposal, or burst pipes causing supply interruptions, as well as, of course, traffic disruptions from resulting repairs. And indeed, only today, I learned of yet another water leak on the Stoke-Hallows Road. It's getting to a stage where it'd be easier to mark where we've not had a leak on that road. That's a bus route. We all know what that means: supply problems until it's fixed and traffic disruption while the work's ongoing. And I actually asked my resident to send me some details of this, and they sent me some screenshots. I think this sums up Southern Water in this respect. It says, yeah, it's been reported, thanks very much, and then on the interactive map it says, use 2 fingers. Yep. Now, the executives that attended provided us with some details of future upgrades to infrastructure, but while the planned investment in a few areas, there's only a few, in Medway is welcomed, am I the only one who feels it's nowhere near enough? Not sufficient, not coming online soon enough to meet current needs, let alone future demand. The draft local plan has now been published, and in my opinion, Southern Water, and for that matter, all utility and service providers should be reviewing their short and long-term plans. So areas in immediate desperate need of improvement, and I appreciate it's not just my own ward, but I will mention that, such as Stoke or Hallows Road, the villages within my ward, can receive the attention they require while plans are made, plans to cope with the future developments that is coming to Medway. I therefore will be moving the motion, and I do move the motion, that this council request the Chief Executive of the Council and the Leader of the Council to jointly write to the Chief Executive of Southern Water to request that Southern Water carries out an urgent review of its future plans for Medway and implements a strategy whereby current problems are addressed and provision is made to satisfy future demand. Thus moved. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that supported?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion and reserve the right to speak later. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member? Councillor Curry.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark. As colleagues are aware, the consultation for the draft local plan is now well underway. And as part of this process in the local plan, we have for a long time now been contacting and discussing service providers of all our key services, not just water, across Medway to make sure that the development proposals are going to be well serviced. That includes existing developments and new developments. I'm also fully aware that there will never be sufficient funding for things we would love to do. We have to be realistic about this. And having said that, we know that there has been a shocking underfunding of water resource management, generally speaking, not just here in Medway, but across the country, for many, many years. However, And I would stress this now, we have seen a significant amount of new funding and investment from Southern Water already, a lot of it here in Medway and certainly across the southeast. They are regularly meeting with all authorities, all the districts, the county and ourselves to discuss the work that they're doing. And this is set to continue for many years to come. We are very aware in particular of the issues on the peninsula and All Hallows, in particular over the supply of water and the lack of pressure in the system and the drainage issues that often leading to areas of flooding. As stated, the colleagues are aware that Southern Water were held to account at the recent Regeneration, Culture and Environment Oversight and Scrutiny meeting. Finally, as part of the process of this consultation, I will be attending the next Parish Council meeting in All Hallows in August to discuss these very issues and to talk about other issues in relation to development around All Hallows as well. Based on these points, I see no need for us to write another letter, have another meeting or set up another series of discussions with Southern Water, as we're already doing this. So I call on colleagues to vote against this motion.
Thank you. I have another member. I'll go back to Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to second...
Apologies, Councillor Lawrence. Sorry. Apologies. Councillor Croser, did you indicate to speak on this matter?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Carry on. Mr Mayor, I have some sympathy with my colleague behind me in All Hallows. In High Halstow, we've had a new development there already in the last few years that has caused a massive disruption to not so much the water supply, but the sewage extraction from our village. And we have tankers that queue up on a nightly basis, not every night, but on many of the evenings during the year. It's very frustrating for residents, and to understand that the further development that is coming, certainly to my village, will just exacerbate this problem. I've contacted Southern Water many times and draw a blank. So without predetermining my way I will vote this evening, I'm inclining to lean with my fellow councillor, Councillor Spalding. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. And a reminder, members, if you do wish to speak, please press your button so that we see on the top table. Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As I was saying, I was happy to support Councillor Spalding's motion. All of us want to see clean water delivered to our homes and businesses and wastewater treated and pumped back into the system to be reused. We want continuous investment in increasing capacity and replacing time-expired infrastructure. None of us want to see sewage pumped directly into rivers and the sea, or our roads continuously dug up to carry out unplanned repairs of old infrastructure. While Southern Water have a £7 billion infrastructure plan for the next 5 years, following a 46% increase in residential bills, you are left wondering whether these amounts are enough to meet the challenges given Southern Water's existing performance across a host of measures. However, there is a much wider system failure here, with Ofwat needing to bear a large amount of the blame for failure to adequately regulate these monopolies and by keeping increases in water charges low, despite the obvious need to keep investing to meet the needs of a growing population and to mitigate the impacts of climate change. We also need to be aware that government have failed to invest in new reservoirs, as an example. I will take this opportunity to comment on the recent appearance of Southern Water at the Regeneration ONS, where members had the opportunity to question Southern Water on their 5-year plans. Now, there were quite a lot of intelligent questions at that meeting, but it was regrettable that Labour councillors decided to focus on dividend payments and salaries, despite there being no dividend payments for the last 7 years, and then asking mid-level executives to comment on their senior executives' pay. It was a missed opportunity to ask probing questions, which are the subject of this motion. Councillor Spalding's motion does bring into sharp focus Medway's local plan, Councillor Curry, where Southern Water will be required to handle the needs of around 50,000 new residents, equivalent to about 7 million litres of clean water per day. The local plan relies heavily on Southern Water delivering, but their own investment plan provides no evidence that it can. And this lack of evidence may render the local plan unsound in my view. Councillor Spalding's motion hits the mark and his request is reasonable. I call upon members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I come back to the move of the motion. Councillor Spalding.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As ever, I'm grateful for the input of members. I have to take issue with Councillor Curry when he says, you know, significant investment. Interesting definition of significant, because if it is significant, why are leaks springing up? Why is water pressure still so low? Why is waste still coming up out of the ground because it can't be pumped away? And I've heard what he says. He says, yeah, we're regularly writing letters to them. We're well aware. Oh, and I'm going to a parish council meeting out in your ward. That doesn't cut it, I'm afraid. If you are constantly writing letters, and if you are well aware, and if you're holding these meetings and people being held to account, why has there been no improvement? Why has the service and the supply got worse, not better? Granted, we can blame previous governments, current governments, off what anyone else, but the simple fact is that the buck stops with Southern Water. They are the provider. They bring the service. And I'll say this to Councillor Curry, I appreciate all the work that is going on, particularly with the local plan and the letters and the constant communication, but the clue to this motion is in the end. 2 words, urgent review, followed by another 2 words, future plans. I'm not asking you to carry on doing what you're doing, that's all good work. Okay, I like the idea of coming out to parish councils, excellent, but we've seen what they presented. It wasn't, in my view, satisfactory, it wasn't enough, and irrespective of your arguments over how these things are presented, what happens with dividends or other things, the fact is that our residents, if you'll excuse the pun, are getting a very raw deal. So that is why I've brought this motion. That's why I'm asking for a letter, and I'm asking for an urgent review, because if you write that letter, maybe, just maybe, someone will look at that and think, actually, maybe we do need to look at this. Maybe we do need to see what we can do to help the residents, not just the rural areas, but all of Medway. We all know what happened recently in Chatham. Our own asset, the Pentagon Centre, was closed because it flooded. They need to take an urgent look at this. It's in the motion. Urgent review, future plans, strategy, reducing current problems, and satisfying future demand. I've moved the motion. I urge all members to support it. Mr Mayor, as ever, I am obliged. Thank you.
All those in favour of the motion? All those against? Thank you, members. Any abstaining, please? Thank you, members. The motion is lost. Come now to the Leader's Report. We have 30 minutes to receive and debate the Leader's Report. May I call on the Leader of the Council to present his report. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark. Good to get all those groans out the way before the next 10 minutes. Mayor Clark, as we are very aware in this chamber, the conversation continues at pace on local government reorganisation. Since we last met as a council, the collective team of 14 councils across the region of Kent and Medway have secured KPMG as our preferred provider of support as we go through our initial phase. It's worth saying very clearly
There will be future phases, and that will be a different procurement process. It may not necessarily be them throughout. There continues to be strong cross-party working across the region, and indeed strong cross-party working here. We've got the next meeting of the working group in less than 24 hours. I look forward to seeing people there. Of course, we've had lots of talk as councillors, but actually the real important conversation will be coming shortly with the public engagement across the region, and particularly here in Medway for this council, as to what the future of local government will look like. And of course, for many residents here, they know how good a unitary authority is because they've had one for nearly 3 decades. It's worth saying as well, one of the things, and I was lucky enough to receive a physical copy of the bill, it's in Gunwharf if anybody wants to see it, that talks a lot around area committees, something which there have been discussions about in the past in this council chamber. There's been a mixture of views, but it's very, very clear the government's direction of travel is very much along those lines rather than perhaps a huge increase in town and parish councils. So that is something I'll be raising at tomorrow's meeting to explore the starting process on that. The last time all of us were in this room, of course, we were creating history, having waited more than 8,000 days to update our local plan. And I want to genuinely thank every member in this council chamber. However you voted, it's important that we had that special meeting. It's important that we recognise that whatever our individual views about aspects and elements, ultimately no person in this chamber, I would hope, would ever say it's better to not have a local plan than have a local plan. I want to take this opportunity in particular to say a huge thank you to the amazing hard-working staff who continue to do that hard work now. And I'd encourage all those residents, businesses and others who are wanting to share their views about this. They've got until August the 11th when the deadline for that submission will be concluded, and then we'll be moving on to preparing for external independent validation and inspection. And it's important to remember why. There may be some people who've got difference of views on my government's announcement today around votes at 16. I've always been a supporter of it. I think there are some people who at 46, 56 and 66 maybe, they've never voted, so to encourage those at that young age to get involved is a good thing, because of course with the local plan, they will have to live with it longer than anybody in this council chamber. It's the future of Medway we're talking about. It's the green spaces, it's the businesses, it's the education, it's the culture, it's the sport, it's the retail, and yes, of course, it's the homes. And every time, as I said here, and I reiterate this, every time you speak to somebody about the local plan, whatever your view on whatever particular paragraph or section, remember this: there are 1,000 children in Medway tonight going to sleep in temporary accommodation. That's why the local plan is so important. Mayor Clark, you and I have become best buddies over the last few weeks. I think I've seen you more than the people I live in a house with. And that's because there is just so much, they'll probably be grateful for that, I'm sure. There is just so much going on in our fantastic community of Medway. So since we last met for the last normal council meeting, I want to update council on the many things that I personally and we as a council have been getting on with. I was incredibly pleased to chair the region of Kent and Medway's MPs and council leaders coming together for an important summit at the House of Commons. Every comment I've had from those across the political spectrum said that was a helpful meeting. We're already looking to get next year's meeting in place because the issues are so important. I was really pleased to participate in the Kent Day event at the House of Commons, and that was hosted by Visit Kent. And I want to take a moment to say a big thank you to Deirdre Wells, who has moved on from her previous existing role of Chief Executive into the role of Chair. She's been a phenomenal leader for that organisation, and I thank her for what she's done. And that was a great event. Of course, talking of great events across our community, across our country, VE Day was celebrated, commemorated and recognised. I want to say a personal thank you to everybody, both from a council perspective, but actually from the community as well, who made that such an inspiring day. And I've had people saying to me, actually Medway led the way across the South East when it came to VE Day. And of course, it's not just VE Day, it's Armed Forces Day as well. Fantastic partnership working with one of our One Medway Charter friends at the dockyard, our veterans, our serving personnel. And actually, some people have said to me that's the best example of an Armed Forces Day service in the south of England. Again, these are not my words, these are people emailing me, speaking to me, telling me how they feel. This council, this administration, we have refreshed our One Medway Financial Improvement and Transformation Plan, our FIT plan. We're getting on with that, continuing to use that as a guiding principle, but being transparent and open about that. We had a fantastic sweeps festival. Once again, huge success. We've refreshed tennis courts at Maidstone Road Sports Ground. We've refreshed tennis courts at the Strand, along with the brilliant splash pad. I'd highly recommend it. Most of the users are far smaller than I. We've had a sneak preview, as we heard earlier on, of the inspirational regeneration of St John's Church. We've opened 2 new buildings at the Victory Academy, and that was a great ability to see some amazing young people's artwork as well. We've had the creation of the new North Kent Woods and Downs National Nature Reserve, including our brilliant Ranscombe Farm. Simon Curry has been instrumental in moving that, working closely with partners across the region. I've spoken with Richard Hicks. I've spoken to Richard Hicks a lot, but I've spoken with Richard Hicks to over 800 staff at our fantastic Our Medway live events that took place at the Central Theatre, hearing direct feedback. Of course, always remembering 80% of those residents of Medway are working for the council. So when we're hearing from them, they're not just working for us, they're living here, they're giving us that feedback on what they want to hear. We had the brilliant Medway Adult Education Open Day. Very, very, very hot, but we can't do much about that. We hosted the second Business and Skills Showcase. We hosted the inaugural Green Business Showcase. We've made huge progress on air quality. We've agreed the creation of a Medway Armed Forces Partnership Board, and I'm grateful to my friend, the Armed Forces champion, Chrissy Stamp, to agree to serve on that alongside myself. We have introduced questions at Cabinet, further opening up democracy to the people of Medway. And I thank everybody so far who's put a question forward. We've had the 9th City Hall. That took place just over the road at the dockyard with the amazing Lego brickworks, which has been extended. More people coming to Medway to enjoy themselves. Look at our fantastic facilities. We've retained 8 amazing green flags. Huge privilege in that. Really working hard. And I want to make sure we get that 9th green flag for the Deangate Park as we move forward. We, of course, not just talking about green flags. We've had a Windrush flag. We've had the Pride flag, we've had the Armed Forces Day flag, we've had the VE Day flag, all flying at Gun Wharf. I'm incredibly proud, under this administration, we will fly flags that represent all elements of the Medway community. And just today, if that all wasn't enough, blimey, just today, the first birthday of the Cossington Park Sports Centre, otherwise known as the artist formerly known as Splashes, with people telling me that. I had a great conversation with some of those individuals who have been using it, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, getting great value out of their Premier membership, telling me that actually genuinely that centre had changed their life. Really inspiring. And I wouldn't normally give shout-outs to individual staff, but I had so much positive feedback about Anita and her aqua combat sessions. I'm not sure whether perhaps we should have the next full council in a We Are the Champions style finish, everyone jumping in the pool at the end. Probably not. But Mayor Clark, look, this is an incredible place. And we know that we're having conversations about the end of this administration's term, the end of this council. We know those conversations are happening. But I'm more confident than ever before of the confidence, the pride of this place. I'm proud to call Medway my home. I'm proud to be the leader of this administration. I'm proud every single day of the difference this council and the community and our partners working together to make this the very, very best place it can be. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Councillor Perfect.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to the leader for his report. And can I first of all associate myself and that of the Opposition Conservative Group, the words particularly around VE Day and Armed Forces Day, which I think were particularly credit to the Council and to external partners, including the Chatham Dockyard Historic Trust.
and also the words that he expressed around Visit Kent, particularly Deirdre Wells and the work that she's done for Kent and Medway over recent years. Mr Mayor, we continue, though, to have concerns about the Regulation 19 of the local plan, particularly concerns about its soundness at this point. And I know my colleague, Councillor Filmer, our Shadow Cabinet Member for Planning and Development, is working on a comprehensive response as part of this consultation that will lay out our concerns, particularly around infrastructure, that we have raised in the next month. We continue to acknowledge the need for a local plan, but we at this stage are clear it must be a sound and the right local plan delivering for our residents. Mr Mayor, as I've laid out previously, engagement is vital as part of the local government reorganisation process, and we continue to work pragmatically with the administration in relation to local government reorganisation, or LGR. I remain firmly of the view, and I know my colleague Harry Rayner, who is doing a fantastic job as our new group leader at Kent County Council, are clear that three authorities remain the right option at this point in our view for Kent and Medway. And I know that's a view shared across Kent, across party, particularly in West Kent. I look forward to continuing those conversations, which will gain steam in the autumn as we move forward to the Kent and Medway submission date later this year. I was pleased to have the opportunity very recently to discuss both of these matters with our party leader, Kemi Badenoch, and our Shadow Secretary of State, Kevin Hollinrake, just a few weeks ago, in a meeting with them, and I would like to thank them for their continued ongoing and pragmatic positive engagement in relation to all things Medway, and particularly the Leader of His Majesty's Officials Opposition's personal interest and follow-up questions that she's sent to me about things that are happening here within the conurbation. But, Mr Mayor, it's been a tricky few months for the administration, not helped by their colleagues in Westminster. Just reading our inboxes or online, you can see residents' frustrations about broken promises, such as the Chatham docks, or indeed in Westminster, where there is continued dysfunction and chaos across Whitehall. Look at the unemployment figures, the handling of the welfare reforms, or indeed just last week, when the Chancellor 1 minute is announcing reforms to ISAs, just to reverse it the next day. Things are not looking good for the Labour government or the Labour administration here in Medway, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Croser, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your report. Mr Mayor, later this evening a motion will be proposed and supported that will trigger a debate at our next council meeting to make several changes to our constitution. These are not new ideas. They are a result of a 2-year trial period that began after the May elections in 2023. They have been thoroughly discussed in cross-party meetings and have proven their worth in reducing time right here in this chamber. Some of those changes are excellent. The move to allow questions at cabinet meetings, for example, has given members and public greater access to the democratic process. This is a welcome and significant improvement. Mr Mayor, without predetermining the outcome of the debate in October, I currently fully support cementing it into our constitution. However, the proposals before us later this evening contains more than just these trialled improvements. It asks us to consider adopting further untrialled options, specifically a restriction on the number of motions that any member can bring to this council. Let's be clear what this means. This isn't a minor procedural tweak. This proposal goes to the very heart of our local democracy, the ability for any elected member from any party or group to bring a supported motion before this council is, in my opinion, a fundamental right. The status quo ensures that all voices are heard and that issues important to our residents can be given the attention they deserve. This is a right we should all cherish and be extremely reluctant to curtail. Mr Mayor, we know that significant government reforms will soon be upon us. We know too that a brand new constitution for the new council is set to be in place by May 2028. Why then would we rush to implement such a fundamental and yet untrialled change that would only be used effectively for a single year? It is, Mr Mayor, with respect, an exercise in folly. Let us then proceed to the debate with the sensible trialled changes that we know work. But I urge you, let us reject this untrialled and undemocratic restriction. Let us protect the right of every single member in this chamber to represent their community. Let us wait for the proper, full constitutional review, not hastily erode a right that is foundational to our work. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Finch.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate the leader's report and the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Reform Group. There's certainly no shortage of reports, action plans and new strategies coming forward from this administration, like moves towards greater transparency, like public questions at Cabinet are a step in the right direction. But transparency means more than just process. It means being honest about where we're succeeding and, crucially, where we're falling short. Residents want to see real change on the ground, not just paperwork moving around the council offices. Take the local plan and the promises around new housing. Every consultation is full of warm words about community and infrastructure, but people in Medway have heard it all before. What they see is development racing ahead, pressure on our roads, schools and surgeries, and not enough truly affordable homes. And on the finances, yes, we've got another improvement plan, another set of monitoring reports, and another positive outcome from the audit. But residents are still left wondering, where's the value for money? Council tax is up, service standards are too often down, and people are noticing. It's time for a real back-to-basics approach, focusing on the services people use every day: clean streets, safe roads, support for the vulnerable. That's what matters to people, and frankly, they'd like to see as much energy spent on those priorities as there is on watching what Kent County Council are doing over the border. Of course, I welcome investment where it genuinely benefits the community, and there are positive projects in the pipeline, but we need a council that delivers results, not just plans and press releases. So let's have less focus on what other councils are up to and more on delivering for Medway. That's what our residents expect, and that's what they deserve. The people of Kent voted in huge numbers for Reform UK. The results speak for themselves. People want change. Labour and the Conservatives are now largely irrelevant. If my friends on the opposite side took more interest in what the voters wanted, instead of obsessing over Reform's social media feeds, they might stand a chance of holding on to their seats in the future, although we all know that is highly unlikely. So here's a genuine offer to my Labour colleagues. Instead of spending the next hour fixated on Kent County Council, since we all know what's coming, why not withdraw those 11 questions and use that valuable time to actually discuss how we can deliver for Medway residents? Let's put the focus back where it belongs, on the real issues facing the people who elected us. Mr. Mayor, if Labour don't take up this offer, if they insist on using council time to play politics about Kent rather than focusing on Medway, then let it be absolutely clear to residents about who's interested in real local issues and who's content to waste time on distractions. Keir Starmer was offered a choice of Davos or Westminster. Your choice, Councillor Maple, is Medway or Kent. We await your choice.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hackwell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your report. Very interesting report. I just think I'd like to start, try and do it in the order that you mentioned it. I won't get everything, but some of the points. It's great news that we've engaged KMPG supporting the LGR. I think we do need some professional help. We can't do it on our own. It's a big, big change for all of us. And I do think there is need for public consultation, and we should make sure that it happens as soon as possible. And perhaps we can discuss this at tomorrow's cross-party working group to see where the timescales lie with that. I mean, the objective for us, of course, is to make sure that they can still the LGR to gain the best possible outcome for the citizens of Medway. And that's what all of us here and those on that working group should be determined to do. We mentioned the local plan. It's out for Regulation 19 and out for consultation. But I believe as there are problems with it, as we've already discussed in this chamber in the special meeting. Not all of us agree wholeheartedly with what's in the plan, and not just individual sites, though I'm sure there's plenty of those with plenty of different Medway residents. But we have some core issues around health, utilities, transport, the way that we're going to prioritise brownfield sites, etc. like that. I just think that we need to make sure that this local plan is the best thing, and I appreciate you said it's been 8,000 days since we've had one, but we need to make sure that this is the best thing for citizens of Medway. And as Councillor Perfect mentioned, we will be sending a full and concise report to the Inspector with our views. And I also echo your your thanks for the hard-working staff to put this plan together. It's no mean feat to put a document of that size together with that detail. So I know we said it at the previous meeting, but I'd also like to say it once again, especially to Dave Harris and his team. I agree with you. The VE Day event was very good at the RE Museum, and it was appreciated by most people. Speeches from the balcony. I mean, whoever thought we would ever do that in Medway? But it's a very good day, and I think it was well received by everybody that was there. Unfortunately, I didn't attend the Armed Forces Day this year, the first one I've missed since I've been a councillor, but the reports I've had said it was a great event, and it's great that we hold it there in something that was sort of part of the effort during the war. I'd just like to say, you mentioned the splash pad at the Strand. It's unfortunate that's not open during the day when it's hot, when there's toddlers around. It's built for toddlers, and we'd only open it at weekends when the swimming pools are. So I wonder if we could have a look to see whether there's anything we could do to open the splash pad, which is not a swimming pool.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hackwell. Thank you. Members, could I please remind you, as before, please speak closely to the mic so that everyone can hear clearly. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Vince, for another enthusiastic speech outlining all the great things that are going on in Medway. So here's a few more, because contrary to what you think, Councillor Perfect, along with our government, we are doing well. And Councillor Finch, you might do well to spend a bit of time looking at exactly what's going on instead of shouting funny little slogans about support for the vulnerable. On supporting the vulnerable, we are looking after over 4,000 people in adult social care. And one of the reasons we're doing that well is because Labour's invested in a right-sizing, restructuring that's yielded 80 new jobs, greatly enhanced services, much better financial monitoring. We've got a fantastic public health department offering a huge amount of preventative free classes, cookery classes, things to help people improve their strength and balance. Just have a look on our website, Councillor Finch, and anybody else who thinks there's nothing going on, and you'll see what a great offer there is. Tomorrow, it's the Medway Mile. Huge event, much loved by everybody walking a mile, showing that you can do little things to improve your fitness, and a fantastic display of things for people to try, especially younger people and older people as well, new sports and new activities. We've done an enormous amount with the creative community, with some fantastic things going on. The libraries have massively widened and increased all of the activities and shows and music that they put on under the stewardship of Councillor Garong. And business is booming. We've got new businesses coming to Medway. Councillor Mayhill is very closely associated with some of our biggest businesses like BAE, 300 new and high-paying jobs, and the opening this year of the James Williams Health Centre, a brilliant facility with 272 rooms in which medical staff, staff from the council, our partners across the NHS family and the DWP will be co-locating to wrap around people in Medway who need improvements to health, who need helping back to work, and also the community who will be able to meet there in partnership with our voluntary sector. I had the very great pleasure of going around there this week. It's absolutely fantastic. In what was a building that was falling down and a terrible old bus station, there will be transformation under Labour. It's got the potential to be one of the flagship new neighbourhood health centres. So after 14 years of misery, 14 years of a lack of investment, 14 years of Medway having a reputation that we were going nowhere, here we are, going somewhere. And whatever the future holds, we'll continue to do that. And for you, Councillor Crozer, look, we're just tidying up the Constitution to make it exactly the same as everyone else, proportionately represented by who's got the votes. And in the words of Councillor Hackwell,
thank you very much, Councillor Murray, for your contribution. There's no time now for any other members, so we'll go back to Councillor Maple. Thank you.
Blimey. Thank you to everybody for their contributions, some of which I agreed with, some of which I didn't. Let me take in no particular order Councillor Hackwell, who spoke a lot of sense at that meeting that Councillor Murray just referred to. On the best outcomes for Medway, absolutely. but I do recognise that we have to do this as part of a team of 14. But everybody in that room, myself and Richard Hicks in particular, for the meetings that we both attend, along with other members of the Cabinet and Corporate Management team, are very, very clear on that. On the splash pad, I'm going to suggest perhaps if Councillor Gurung can write to you, there are some really technical issues why the splash pad has to be open at the same time as the Lido, which will use all of my time, which I'm not going to do. But your passion for that is absolutely right. It is amazing, but there are some technical issues with that. It is working all the time now, though. There were one or two teething issues. Not everything is perfect, but it's absolutely working spot on now. So thank you for recognising that. I raise the issue of libraries after my friend and colleague, the Deputy Leader, because it gives me a great opportunity to remind everybody that Medway's libraries are for everyone. That perhaps isn't the case with other libraries elsewhere in the region, but everyone is welcome, everyone is happy, everyone is enjoying a vast variety of activities in our libraries, and I'm not banning any books. So that's fine too. Thank you. On the issues of the debate we will have in October, I would respectfully remind the leader of the independent group that actually we have got a restriction on the amount of motions we can bring forward. Councillor Rupert Turpin put that restriction in place when he was a cabinet member. He said it would be reviewed. We're not waiting for that review, because he's not here to carry out that review. We'll bring forward the alternative proposals that we'll debate in a full and open, transparent way in October, and I look forward to that. Mayor Clark, as my friend and Deputy Leader referred to as well, of course I've given a big long list, but there's even more stuff coming. Before the end of this month, we've got Love Gillingham happening on Sunday. We've got the Medway Mile on Friday. And both of those are important because they're important points for the community, but actually it's a chance to absolutely be unashamed to say the previous administration let down Gillingham. They let down Gillingham. They could have put in a future High Streets Fund bid for Gillingham. They proactively chose not to. They voted against doing that. This administration values all 5 towns and the peninsula, and we're getting on with that. And that's why things like Love Gillingham are such a great success. And I'm looking forward to, probably by the end of Sunday afternoon, at least delivering one speech in a wrestling ring, which is always good fun. I'll try not to trip over the ropes. And I'll finally finish with this, Mayor Clark. Councillor Finch referred to me thinking a lot about what's happening at Bluebell Hill and down the road there. Well, I do, because actually, as people know in this room, I'm a former trade unionist. I used to work for the GMB. I'm still a member of the GMB. I should declare an interest in what I've just said. And actually, I know, in the same way that 80% of Medway Council staff live in Medway, a percentage of KCC staff live in Medway. So I worry about their employer under their new executive directorship and the private company which is now running them, not registered as a political party. I'm worried about letters sent out at 9 o'clock at night. It's completely unacceptable. So I will stand up and say that's no way to treat hard-working staff from the bottom to the top at all levels in that council. That will never happen here, not on my watch, not on our watch, and to be fair, not on anybody's watch who's run this council since it's existed. So look, I will call out when your neighbours are doing things wrong. When your neighbours and your political opponents are doing things right, as you did with your motion, we supported that with our amendment. But when things are going wrong, whichever political party it is, we will call it out. And we'll call it out because we're proud of local government. Nobody in this room wouldn't be in this room if they didn't love local government. So when it's going wrong, we'll call it out. And there may be some questions coming up soon that will give some clarity as to some of the areas I think it's going wrong. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Thank you, Leader. We're moving now to members' questions. We have 20 minutes to deal with the 13 questions listed on the agenda from members of the Council. Any questions not dealt with this evening will receive written responses instead. Answers to questions must not exceed 3 minutes in length. Please,
It's almost as if people know what's coming next. Mr. Mayor, point of personal clarification. Many people watching won't necessarily be aware that none of us know what the agenda looks like until the agenda is published. And then, as is traditional in Medway, the main groups will have group meetings on a Monday night. We obviously met as a group on a Monday night. We said clearly we can see the order of questions, and we absolutely wanted to allow questions L and M, the two questions from the Reform UK group, to be put first. We think that's appropriate. It will allow a number of questions to be heard that I think are important, but we don't want to stymie that debate. So I put to you on Monday that request for that to be considered. This is your meeting, not mine. That's very important. And out of courtesy, I made Councillor Finch and Vi aware of that as well. So I've been very, very clear that we think that's appropriate. Anybody saying anything alternatively in the press around we're trying to stifle questions being answered is inaccurate. But I would ask you, Mayor, it is your meeting, whether you wish to consider that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mayor. To the portfolio holder for business management, have our human resources policies ever allowed elected members under any administration to unilaterally override staff contracts or working conditions outside proper processes?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Hamilton. In Medway, the pay policy statement is reviewed annually by the Employment Matters Committee and full council, and any other policy changes that may impact working conditions are subject to full and proper consultation with trade union colleagues and through Employment Matters Committee. It is not possible for members to make changes to these matters outside of these processes, and that is how it should be. As the General Secretary of Unison said in standing up for the rights of working people who have been unacceptably threatened, it's disappointing but not unexpected that Nigel Farage, on the other hand, thinks he can immediately threaten local government workers in the council's reform will control. Think again. This isn't the USA. We have laws that protect workers and strong unions that will always stand up for their members.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can the leader confirm whether it would be legal for this council to pass a budget that would deny young people with support like driving lessons or educational access based on their immigration status or background, as Reform UK have recently suggested, on the basis that Medway Council has a statutory duty of care to young people who are in our care until the age of 25?
Thank you. Councillor Maple, would you please respond?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Councillor Jackson, for your question. Medway Council, like all local authorities in England with care responsibilities, have clear and binding statutory responsibilities to all children and young people in its care, including care leavers up to the age of 25. These responsibilities are underpinned by several key pieces of legislation and statutory guidance. The duty is the foundation of the Council's role as a corporate parent, which requires all of us to act in the best interest of all children in care and care leavers, as any good parent would. This includes access to education, training, employment, and life skills, such as driving lessons, where appropriate. It would not be lawful for the Council to pass a budget that denies support for children in care or care leavers based on their immigration status or background. Such a policy would be incompatible with our statutory duties, the legal framework governing care, and our role as a corporate parent. Zia Youssef demonstrated clearly when discussing this issue on BBC Radio Kent that he and his party simply don't understand the first thing about statutory responsibilities that they've taken on, describing care leavers as some of these, quote, children at 24 years old. Medway Council is committed to upholding the rights and welfare of all young people in our care. And we're pleased to pass a cross-party motion last year recognising people with care experience having a protected characteristic. We will ensure where they are supported equally and fairly and that all children and young people continue to matter in Medway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mighton, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that many Medway residents are concerned who work out of area for different local authorities, so I'd like to ask the Chair of Employment Matters Committee if Medway Council attempted to give different pay awards to staff based on whether they are members of the local government pension scheme, as suggested by Nigel Farage's limited company, would that be legal under UK employment law?
Councillor Mark Prenter, would you please respond?
Thank you for your question. And can I firstly say we're not wasting council time, and I'm happy to give my time to answer your question because that's what we're elected to do. All roles go through a job evaluation process to ensure that employees are fairly paid for the work they undertake. Differentiating pay awards for the same role on inappropriate grounds could potentially make the authority liable for equal pay claims. This would not only be an awful thing to put on working people in Medway, but also far from achieving government efficiency, would cost the council more and tie up officer time in length and unnecessary disputes. Council staff have suffered more than a decade of real terms pay cuts. The first thing, and I'm going to say it, Reform do when they achieve any power is attack the low-paid workers that keep our country moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nesterov, please may I have your question?
If Medway followed Reform UK dogmatic position and ended all working from home, what would be the operational and legal consequences for our workforce?
Thank you. Councillor Van Dijk.
Thank you, Councillor Nesterov. Thank you for your question. Operationally, this will put a strain on our estates and our current strategy of property rationalisation, which forms part of the wider financial sustainability ambition. In addition, this would make recruitment and retention difficult. Many have changed their work patterns and lifestyles to adjust to a new way of working, and many other organisations offer this flexible approach. To remove this would place a considerable pressure on our ability to retain colleagues and recruit new ones. This would also necessitate changing the employment contracts for all effective staff, which would require consultation and could come at a significant cost. In my opinion, organisations work best when they are agile and flexible and can respond to the needs of their staff, whether that is by agreeing... Whether that is by agreeing a programme of work to modernise their facilities like we are doing here in Gunwharf, or allowing hybrid working which allows staff to be more productive. Presumably, Reform UK agree with this approach, which is why they have been advertising for numerous party roles to work from home instead of investing in facilities for them.
Well done. Thank you. Councillor Cook, please may I have your question?
Thank you. Question to Councillor Maple. If Medway councillors promised residents that we would ban staff from working from home, would we be breaching employment law? Thank you.
Councillor Maple.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Councillor Cook, for your question. Employment contracts generally set out the work style and location that are applicable to a role. Whilst not all contracts in Medway will be the same, most will state that the work style is hybrid, in line with our ways of working policy. Amending a contract term without formal consultation and other procedures being correctly followed would likely be overturned at an employment tribunal hearing. Nigel Farage telling the BBC that there is no more working from home as a good start isn't something he can deliver for the people that voted for his private company. Nor would it deliver the productivity he thinks it will. There are plenty of people across all industries who don't have the opportunity to work from home due to the nature of the work that they carry out. But to block those who can for a cheap political win is, to borrow a phrase often levelled at the Labour Party, the politics of envy. Thank you.
Councillor Howcroft-Scott, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To the portfolio holder for business management, if a Medway dog with an E-team 2005 tried to demand HR files or attempted to discipline officers without using the policy, would we think that was lawful?
Councillor Van Dyke.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Howcroft-Scott. Access to human resources files could only be given in line with GDPR requirements and regulations, as the files contain personal data about employees and in some cases also their families. Individuals could request access to their own files via a subject access request, but there are very limited circumstances where a subject access request for an individual file could be accepted by someone other than the individual concerned. Any disciplinary action could only be taken in line with the Council's disciplinary policies and processes, which do not allow for actions to be taken by someone outside of the authority, although an independent investigator may be appointed in limited circumstances. The smooth and successful running of a council is dependent upon mutual respect between the leader and cabinet and the senior management team. Putting a letter into the public domain via social media on a Sunday night, threatening staff to comply with party demands before sharing it with their chief executive is completely unacceptable.
Thank you. Councillor Shokar, please may I have your question?
Yeah, a question for Councillor Maple. Would you ever co-sign a letter with the leader and the chair of the Labour Party threatening Medway Council staff if they didn't hand over the sensitive information to the Labour Party chair and other prominent Labour Party donors, particularly if these hypothetical Labour Party donors had already in the past been fined over £100,000 by the Information Commissioner's Office for illegally sharing and using data for political campaigning?
Councillor Maple. Councillor Stamp, please may I have your question?
Has Medway's Audit Committee ever received advice or evidence suggesting that politicising audit, as Reform UK proposes, could improve governance or protect taxpayers?
Councillor Maple, would you please respond on Councillor Brown's behalf?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you for the question. No.
Councillor Campbell, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. To the portfolio holder for education, Reform UK councillor Lyndon Camcurran recently said of the possibility of replacing classes in adult education centres up and down the country that are teaching English as a second language with the Duolingo app. If I don't think that's value for money, it's going. Simple as that. Can the chairperson of the Health and Wellbeing Board confirm whether the health benefits of helping residents learn English, for example, improving health outcomes, as well as social and economic benefits, such as getting into work and improving community cohesion, represents good value for money?
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Campbell, and it's an important one. I had the very great pleasure of attending one of our ESOL classes that was being held at the Salvation Army Centre in Chatham by Medway Adult Education. They had 8 students, 6 languages, 6 children. Everyone was having a fantastic time. I'm very proud that I represent such a diverse community and that we're prepared to support them. The benefits and impacts of learning English at centres and outreach community venues are well documented, valued and recognised nationally. English for speakers of other language, or ESOL, support community cohesion, integration, mental health, and alongside opportunities to improve life, work and education prospects. Some learners, like the ones I saw, have very little or no support network, which increases the risk of social isolation. ESOL classes can be a way for people to develop new relationships and help signposting to other support agencies, and the women at the class that I saw had already started taking part in other activities at the Salvation Army Centre. There's so much more than just learning a language. Learning via an app such as Duolingo does provide opportunities for learning basic vocabulary, but progress is slow, attention to grammar is not integral to the lessons, and the methods of supporting pronunciation are imperfect. In contrast, ESOL classes embed not only opportunities to gain recognised nationally accredited qualifications, but also the necessary grammar and pronunciation to aid communication and ensure progress. Practical life skills with topics including healthy eating, financial literacy and well-being are integrated into the curriculum to educate the learners holistically as well as academically. And as a result, many learners increase their confidence with language skills and tell us it's helped them to communicate and engage more effectively in their daily lives or with a GP or with a school. Meeting and learning together provides support networks that are unparalleled. In classes, students learn to keep themselves and their families safe from digital harm and exploitation. This preventative action reduces the risk of harm and further costs to society. And they also become familiar with the diverse culture of the UK and, importantly, British values. Additionally, learning how to apply for work and develop interview skills to prepare for life in modern Britain is all part of the package. This, in turn, increases productivity, benefits our local economy, and some learners come straight to class from shifts in their work clothing, often juggling the challenges of learning and working with family commitments. If they're not ready to enter the job market, they get involved with volunteering and community engagement, work and transfer existing skills and expertise to develop even their own business and support themselves and contribute to our economy. These are protective and empowering factors. They might be hard to quantify, but ESOL classes are about more than just learning a language. They provide a foundation for creating valued, stronger, and more connected communities. As the leader of KCC has come to realise on the issue of migrant care worker visas, despite her party's policy to cut
Councillor Murray, for
migration.
your answer. Thank you. Councillor Jones, please may I have your question.
If Medway Council followed Reform UK's advice and tried to opt out of the local government pension scheme, what would happen legally and what bill might we face?
Councillor Maple.
Thank you for your question. One of the benefits which is particularly important to our staff as part of our People Promise and a key offer which improves our recruitment and retention of staff is membership of the local government pension scheme. Withdrawal from that scheme would have a negative impact on both recruitment and retention, which would increase the reliance on temporary and agency staff, which of course, as everyone knows, would come at an increased cost. In addition, the council as an employer is legally obliged to provide a pension scheme for its employees, so we'd need to provide a viable fund or join an alternative fund, which would also come at a significant cost. Again, far from providing government efficiency, this would make matters far worse, whilst punishing hard-working local people.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Peake, please may I have your question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question was to the Chair of Audit, Councillor Brown. If Medway attempted to sideline our external auditors and replace them with Reform UK's version of Doge, what risks would we be exposed to?
Councillor Maple, please, would you respond on Councillor Brown's behalf?
Thank you, and thank you for your question. Any other form of Doge or whatever acronym we're using this week, is designed to identify inefficiencies in delivery of council services, whilst the role of external audit is to provide an opinion on the accuracy, the truth and fairness of the council's statutory statement of accounts, and in doing so provide an opinion on the council's value for money. Local councils are legally required to comply with external audit obligations under the Local Audit and Accountability Act 2014 and the Accounts and Audit Regulations 2015. Statutory audits ensure compliance with financial regulations, provide assurance to taxpayers and central government, and are conducted by qualified regulated professionals. Doge functions are not statutory bodies and have no legal mandate under the Local Audit and Accountability Act 2014. In addition, they're often politically affiliated, compromising their independence, which is a core competence of statutory audits. As such, they could not replace the council's external auditors, and the council would still be legally required to appoint independent external auditors through the public sector audit appointments or other approved routes. Whilst there is no direct financial implications for failing to have external audit, failure to do so would leave the council exposed to reputational, procedural consequences for non-compliance with their legal obligations.
Thank you. I have time for one more question. Councillor Finch, please may I have your question?
Fantastic. Mr Mayor, given that the leader of the council attended a meeting with Peel LNP and ArcelorMittal Kent Wire in January 2024, where Peel LNP reportedly stated they were not minded to sell Chatham docks, Why does a leader continue to imply that ArcelorMittal could resolve the issue simply by acquiring the site? Does this not risk misleading the public and stakeholders about the realistic prospects for securing the future of the working docks? Thank you.
Councillor Maple.
Thank you, Councillor Finch, for your question. Well worth the wait. Let me tell you about a meeting that I coordinated and organised, not a meeting I've heard about second-hand by somebody. I'd be very interested to know who's telling you lies and inaccuracy. So for the avoidance of doubt, I was very pleased, as I said I would, to convene a meeting on the 23rd of January 2024, when the suggestion of the sale was put forward in that meeting by Kent Wire, ArcelorMittal. Peel L&P reiterated at that meeting that they were happy to receive any such proposals. As I've already said at the previous special council meeting, they also said that to this very body, not under my leadership, not under the leadership of the Chief Executive, in a letter on the 25th of November 2021, where they wrote to this council. And they said directly, and I will quote paragraph 3.2, ArcelorMittal Kent Wire are prepared to purchase the docks from Peel L&P and is assembling a bid to do so. More than 1,300 days ago, they were assembling a bid to do so. That bid has never come forward. But there's more. Back in 2022, there were correspondence between ArcelorMittal and Peel L&P, where ArcelorMittal received correspondence back and forth on the issue of the freehold, and they requested whether they would sell the freehold. That was asked by Kent Wire ArcelorMittal. Peel L&P said in 2022, whilst we had not considered selling the site, you are welcome to put forward a proposal at any time. Councillor Finch, your question contains a lie. A lie. So I would ask you to withdraw that question very seriously before we finish this meeting tonight. I'm welcoming the fact that we got to this question. And for the avoidance of doubt, I do believe that ArcelorMittal have for a number of years had the opportunity to put forward a bid to the landowner. They have failed to do so. So to blame anybody but themselves for that is bizarre at best. So I would ask Councillor Finch to withdraw his question because it is a lie. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
I'll just take advice from the legal officer. Thank you. The decision is entirely with Councillor Finch.
I have it on good authority that that is the truth, Mr. Mayor.
You just yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, members. We have no time for the final question, so.
Councillor Clark, as a humanitarian, I'm a little bit worried about Councillor Pearce. Has he just turned his back with disrespect, or is he having an emotional episode again?
It's not a point of order. Thank you very much. So the remaining question will receive a written response. We move now to agenda item number 11, the MedPay review. Going to call upon Councillor Mark Prenter. Would you like to make a proposal?
This paper gives an outcome review and recommendations for our most senior staffing levels within the Council. I'm moving that we use option B of the three options presented to the Employment Matters Committee and agreed as the preferred option. The reasoning for this I will come to, but firstly I must stress that no senior member of staff is having a pay cut, nor are they worsening their financial position. The senior leader's pay progression is part of the wider MedPay review process. We took the option of B as we must be aware that SITFA have advised we need to be conscious of our spending and need to be cautious when we decide on spending taxpayers' money. Also, the extra spinal point in the senior manager's pay scale gives an opportunity for the manager to be supported, developed and gain the necessary competency when they first take on the senior leader role at each pay scale. Again, I will say it, the managers are not receiving a pay cut. Yes, to reach the top of their pay scale within their pay grade will take an extra step. However, we'll be with a career development pathway that will be implemented, and employees within these grades will easily achieve their career goals. We are proud to have given all employees a cost of living pay rise, which senior managers will continue to receive even if they do not meet the professional competency needed to move up within their pay grade. So again, we are not cutting senior managers' pay. Unlike other councils not too far away from here, we are continuing to support our senior managers with home working. Senior leaders are also eligible for other allowances in recognition of their roles. Unlike the opposition group, who proposed a budget that wanted to cut over 30 staff, what we have developed is a comprehensive pay and development package to support career progression that is more affordable. I ask members to support the Employment Matters Committee recommendation of option B. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that supported? Is that supported? Anyone? Councillor Van Dijk, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right? Thank you. Councillor Hackwell?
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment to this paper. Thank you. It'll be distributed now.
Thank you. Have all members seen a copy of the amendments? Yes? Thank you. Everyone? Okay. Councillor Hackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to bring this amendment to the Chamber. As a member of the Employment Matters Committee, which is a cordial committee and chaired very well by Councillor Mark Printer, who has proposed the original paper, we had a good debate around senior officers' pay progression. And in the end, the decision was to recommend to the full council option B, which contains 4 progression points rather than 3. This decision was not a unanimous one. It's been about 11 weeks since that decision was made at the committee, and maybe with that time, members of the committee have had time to reflect, and I have moved this amendment in line with the Chief Organisation and Culture Officer's recommendation and the CMT's recommendation, as this mirrored the 3 progression points of the rest of the organisation and provided continuity of one pay model for all colleagues' progression within the range, and will be unlikely to happen every year, as it was based on performance and not time served. So it may take more time to get to the end of the progression. It's not just because there's 4. Even with 3, it could take a long time. As an organisation, we need high-performing leadership layer, and it's important that we retain the value of this leadership layer. The leadership layer is expected to be available 24/7 without any additional pay or flexi time, which made progression into leadership roles less attractive. So by further penalising this group, by further introducing an additional progression step, only for this group will serve to make the advancement to this group less attractive and in line with the rest of and out of line with the rest of the organisation. I hope I can count on the support of the whole chamber in supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Is that supported? Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Yeah, I'll speak now.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'd certainly like to support the amendment from Councillor Hackwell. At the Employment Matters Committee, we heard from the Chief Organisational Culture Officer, where she outlined the reasons why the corporate management team felt that option A was the preferred option and the associated risks by choosing option B and option C in terms of structuring progression, retention, challenges for succession, the attractiveness of senior roles and potential financial pressures. Option A offers an alignment with the rest of the organisation pay structure, as Councillor Atwell just said, the 3-point framework. Why would we want our senior officers paid to operate outside of this? We often recognise at our meetings the importance of the work that our officers carry out. In fact, tonight Councillor Maple's made several references to that. Councillor Maple, a couple of hours ago, you very kindly forwarded us an email that you sent to Helen Grant MP, and I quote, "I've checked with our hard-working Medway Council officers. Every year we offer a vote of thanks to our staff at annual council, so let's show our senior officers we are true to our word and that we recognise the vital roles they play in delivering the crucial services to our residents. I urge you all to support Councillor Hackwell's amendment for reasons of consistency, long-term retention, financial prudence, maintaining trust and fairness across all grades by cultural alignment within the council and helping to maintain higher retention rates of our skilled and valued managers." Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I have no members showing, so I will go back to Councillor Mark Prenter.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to speak against the amendment because, quite simply, the 4 points within the career development will give training. This training will be implemented to further support the leadership roles. The extra point will develop our leaders into better leaders. We'll give them that support. We'll give them the tools that they need to be better leaders. There will be a framework in place that will allow our leaders to become the leaders that we want and we value. And to show that the value we give is the value that we've given all our staff a cost of living pay rise 2 years now that is a worthy pay rise. Not 1% and a magic leader stands up and pulls another 1% out the hat. Not saying we're going to get rid of 37 posts without any substance behind it. So that's how we're supporting all our employees, and this extra step allows us to be prudent, allows us to help our senior leaders be the senior leaders that we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask all those in favour of the amendment to please show? And all those against the amendment, please show. Thank you very much. The amendment is lost. We now go back to the substantive. Do I have any member? In which case, Councillor Van Dijk.
Just asking members to support the proposal from Councillor Prenter in relation to the option for the pay increase. Thank you.
Okay, so back to Councillor Mark Prenter.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I said most of my thing in the against the amendment, but I just want to reiterate, we are supporting our senior leaders with home working. Other councils are insisting that over 500, turning down a building sale to enforce these people to come back into an office without any substance. We are supporting our senior leaders with that. And look, the Conservatives who proposed the amendment, I'll say it again, only this year in the budget, you wanted to remove 30 members of staff. You voted against a real cost of living pay rise. You're not supporting your workers. And one of their members at Business Support wanted to offshore council jobs, sending Medway taxpayers' money out of the local Medway economy. Is that the message that we want?
Thank you, Councillor Mark-Prenter. Councillor Perfect.
Yeah, just a point of personal explanation on behalf of the Conservative Group. We did vote against the overall budget. We proposed an amendment to the cost of living award, which was a cost of living award in line with inflation, just to correct you. Thank you very much, Councillor Mark-Prenter.
Thank you, Councillor Perfect. Councillor Mark-Prenter.
Yeah, thank you. I think I said a real cost of living pay rise. The word is in the real. Sorry, I thought you was going to get up and say... Sorry, I thought you was going to get up and say that you didn't want to offshore Medway Council jobs then, but there we go. Okay, you had your opportunity, but you didn't take it.
Thank you.
During their administration, they didn't support our staff by giving them below inflation pay rises and ignoring the trade unions until their leader pulled out a slightly better but still paltry pay offer at the last minute, ignoring his own members on the Employment Matters Committee. I will not be lectured by them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mark-Prenter. Is that agreed, members? Thank you very much. We move now to amendments to the capital programme. Councillor Maple, would you like to make a proposal?
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark. This will be a historic moment. This will be the last time I will ever be able to say in this council chamber that the previous administration got more quotes for a photocopier than they did for a shopping centre, because tonight we are taking that budget line that was created by that debate finally out of the budget for Medway Council. But it's worth saying, in doing so, there's around about £2.8 million of that allocation remaining. £2.4 million of it will be spent on a number of improvements, and my friend and Cabinet colleague will probably go into a little more detail when we get to his seconding. But we are taking out entirely around £400,000 from the capital programme to remove the unspent balance. There are some small but important transfer backs to general capital receipts from the unspent balance on some works, and again that's laid out in paragraph 1.4. And then importantly, as has been talked about and discussed previously at the Cabinet in March, the removal of the £34 million from the Innovation Park Medway scheme, as laid out in the Cabinet decision and section 4.1. Happy to take any questions as we move forward.
Thank you. Is that supported?
No.
Please confirm who's supporting. Councillor Hale, thank you. Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right? Thank you. Any member? Councillor Galvin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak, but I really must correct the nonsense that the leader of the council has come out with in the last few minutes. Yes, you would have lots of quotes for photocopiers. There are many different types of photocopiers. There's many different types of leasing or buying arrangements. But the last time I looked, there was only one Pentagon Centre in Chatham. The choice that had to be made, did we want to invest in the Pentagon Centre and invest in the future of Chatham or not? And at the time, did that investment make sense for the council? So that is why we went forward to it. I'm sorry to say, and I will have to say this again and again, when it comes to the regeneration of Chatham, every single member of the Labour group that was on the planning committee when the plans for the redevelopment of Mountbatten House came to the planning committee, every single one of them voted against it. They voted against the future regeneration of Chatham. So we will take no lectures on the amount of quotes. We invested in the future of Chatham. I'm proud we did that. Yes, as a consequence of the Pentagon Centre being in the council's ownership, we will have a fantastic new health centre for the people of Chatham, which is very well deserved. That would have only happened because we owned the Pentagon. So I think I stand on our administration's record of that with pride. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Curry.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark. I just wanted to pick up on one particular aspect of this report, and that's in relation to IPM, Innovation Park Medway, and just talk to colleagues very briefly about the decision-making that's been going on there, so that people are aware of what we've been doing. Obviously, just over 2 years ago now, when we came into the administration, there was an awful lot of problems with the site, partly to do with the lack of interest that we'd seen from the commercial sector. Times had moved on since the first iteration of it and the first ideas around it, and there just simply wasn't the interest that we expected to see within the site. But secondly, there were a lot of issues around the infrastructure on the site, which needed resolving as soon as we can. The good news is that we've changed how we're looking at the site. The LDO, the Local Development Order, is going to be removed. And in addition to that, we've got significant changes with a new strategy. A great partnership has developed, thanks to my colleague next to me, with BAE. And equally, a new care home for the elderly and other people with certain conditions, thanks to my colleague on my left. And those are really sort of big steps forward. And finally, the concern that we've had as well behind the scenes is in relation to access to the site. If we were to build and develop it as per the original plans, there would be hundreds, possibly thousands of cars and lorries a day going in and out of that site, which is not sustainable on the junctions up there. So we're looking at a transport plan where workers and people going to the site can get there by public transport. So there's a whole lot of work that's gone on behind the scenes by an amazing team of officers who've really gone above and beyond to give us this new approach to the site. So I just thought I'd give colleagues a little update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Hackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a Conservative group, we support the recommendation outlined in section 1 of the report and recognise, at the end of the day, it's just a prudent financial management in line with the flexible use of capital receipts first used in 2016-17. So it's just a normal process and we're happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. No other member. Back to Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, we supported the strategic decision to purchase the Pentagon. What we were asking for was greater scrutiny on the process regarding quotes and the soundness of the deal. It's a stated record. And there are a number of properties that are unique. It doesn't mean that you can't get a number of quotes on a unique property. That just doesn't make sense. Every house could claim to be unique. But what this administration won't do is let our property and let our assets crumble and deny the required investment needed to keep them in good order, Mr. Mayor. And so that's why, in voting for this, and I'm pleased to hear that members opposite will be voting for it, involves the replacement of the section of the roof, the refurbishment of 205 High Street, which is the frontward-facing part of the Pentagon, the upgrades to fire exits and windows to the bus lane, repair and resurfacing of the service road, and repairs and resurfacing to the car park. I doubt any member in this chamber will deny that those aren't vital pieces of work that we need to carry out. We will protect our investments, and it's great to hear that members opposite will be voting alongside. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the proposer, Councillor Maypole.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. And Councillor Marhill is right. Of course, we will never know whether we under or overpaid for the Pentagon because we only got one quote. But one thing I do agree on is that you are absolutely right, Councillor Golvin. There is only one Pentagon Centre, and this perhaps is an opportunity to send a happy 50th birthday to the Pentagon Centre. So I disagreed on one. It's a bit like a score draw in that debate we've had there, Councillor Golvin. So, Mayor Clark, and I genuinely welcome the words from the Deputy Leader, Councillor Hackwell. These are fundamentally tidying up exercises. Some of them are quite big sums of money, but that's ultimately tidying up and sensible approaches to our financial management. And again, as Councillor Marhill rightfully says, this administration will continue to ensure that where funds allow, we will make sure we will give above and beyond the very best protections to our buildings, not only because that's the right thing to do, because if you don't, as we have found out over the last 2.5 years, that can make those improvements and repairs even more expensive. So I'm grateful that we'll see the cross-party support for this tonight. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Is that agreed, members? Thank you very much. Come now to agenda item 13, review of the Constitution. Councillor Maple, would you like to make the proposal?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. And of course, there are two recommendations tonight, one of which we will be debating in October. And I've made the main point I was going to make, which of course, this is not the first time in recent history that we've debated the number of motions. Actually, we didn't debate it at all. It happened during COVID, and we've never reviewed it since. So we will be reviewing it in October. I'll leave my comments on that element for there tonight, unless anybody attempts to say anything, which I'm sure will not happen. The second recommendation is something we can deal with tonight. That's about approving the appointment of a representative of MVA, Medway Voluntary Action, to the Health and Wellbeing Board as a non-voting member. We really value and appreciate the brilliant work of MVA, and this is probably a good opportunity to say a big thank you, because probably before we meet again as a council, Jane Howard, the brilliant CEO, will be retiring, and I know all members across the chamber will want to take an opportunity to say thank you for her service to the people of Medway. So that means she definitely won't be the representative. She'll be enjoying her retirement. But MVA carry out a critical role in our community. Very, very important work that they do, ensuring that those more than 1,400 charity, voluntary sector, faith groups and social enterprise groups get that collective voice and support. Mayor Clark, you may well be seeing most of those 1,400. I'm just giving you that advance warning now. So it's right to hear, particularly as we go on our Marmot journey, that voice of the voluntary sector, because in so many cases, and I have to say particularly not just where they perhaps tender for contracts with us, with the NHS and others, but actually those smaller voluntary groups, the knitter and natters that meet in church halls, they all play a part. They're all members of MVA, and making sure all of those voices are heard collectively under the really focused Health and Wellbeing Board that Medway has under the chairship of my friend Councillor Theresa Murray. I think it's really important that we hear that voice on a regular basis. They have been invited occasionally on meeting-to-meeting basis. This will put them permanently at the table. So I will be very pleased to be voting for this. And I say on the first recommendation, of course, that holds on till the October council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Murray, do you wish to speak now or reserve your
Yes,
right?
I'll speak now, Mayor Clark. Thank you. And just to add that it is really important to have that voluntary sector representation on the Health and Wellbeing Board. They have been invited, as Councillor Maple said, to join us on lots of items. Other Health and Wellbeing Boards do have them there as a permanent member. And I think it's important, particularly as we move into the 10-year plan for health with a very, very firm focus on prevention rather than treatment. The role of the voluntary sector and all the partnership work we're going to do is very much enhanced. So I want to recognise that and send a very strong message to everybody in the voluntary sector, no matter how big or small your charity, no matter if you volunteer half an hour a week or every day, you're important to us and we want to hear your voice.
Thank you. Councillor Purvey, you've indicated to wish to speak. Reminder that it's only on the second recommendation. Yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's all I was just going to talk about. I was just going to second the words from both the Leader of the Council and the Deputy Leader about the work of the MVA, and particularly thank Jane for her work in terms of leading the organisation, and associate my words with the Deputy Leader in terms of the work of the Health and Wellbeing Board. It's got a really important role to play in driving health, particularly around inequalities, and obviously the work around the Marmot Place initiative as well. And I think having the MVA as part of the Health and Wellbeing Board will be beneficial to the board's overall effectiveness, and look forward to continuing to watch its meetings and follow its progress. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Shoko, have you indicated?
Yeah, I just wanted to declare an interest that I work for MVA, so I won't be voting on this.
Thank you. Noted. No other member, as I go back to Councillor Maple.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark, and thank you to both my Deputy Leader and the Leader of the Opposition for their kind words in recognising both the role of the voluntary sector and indeed Jane Howard. We wish her a very long and happy retirement as she moves on from MVA. And I look forward to the debate in October. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Is that agreed, members? Thank you very much. We now have 20 minutes to receive and debate the report on overview and scrutiny activity. I'll call Councillor Tejan to move the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the report updates the Council on activities of our full overview and scrutiny committee since the last ordinary full Council meeting, and I will highlight some of the areas of discussions over the last 3 months. The Children and Young People ONS committee had a housing theme for its June meeting and considered issues around children and families placed in temporary accommodation, care leavers accommodation, and children's commissioning quality assurance processes of children places and young people inspectors. Last month, the Regeneration Agriculture Environment ONS committee, as I alluded to earlier in the previous motion, had the Salt and Water in attendance to discuss a range of issues, including water supply issues, charges, and investments issues. Salt and Water was requested to respond outside the meeting on a number of matters. The committee also undertook a pre-decision scrutiny of the Climate Change Action Plan and Medway Air Quality Action Plan prior to consideration and approval at Cabinet earlier this month. The Health and Adult Social Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee discussed the leadership arrangement and the CCQ inspection at Medway Maritime Hospital and received an update on the Camden Medway Integrated Care Board's Community Service Engagement Program. The committee provided comments on the structure of the council plan, performance, and strategic risk report, and asked officers to look at the possibility of providing training for members in how to use the information and report to maximize effective scrutiny. I will move on to business support and digital overview and scrutiny committee in a moment, but the business support also raised similar concerns on the report, and I'm pleased that members are asking for training, which will help strengthen our scrutiny arrangement. Turning now to business support and digital overview and scrutiny, the committee undertook pre-decision scrutiny on the taxi tariff review policy and the climate change action plan prior to consideration and approval at Cabinet earlier this month. It's also considered a report on CFA assurance and the capital and revenue and outturn and annual debt write-off report for 2024-2025. It also considered the annual report on petitions and asked officers to look into a number of issues, including the possibility of amending the petition scheme to enable e-petition to be more widely accepted. As always, Mr. Mayor, our overview and scrutiny committees continue to effectively scrutinize a range of issues, and I'm happy to move the recommendations I set out on paragraph 1.1 on the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Field, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Yes, I'll speak now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank you, Councillor Tejan, for that excellent summary of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I just wanted to reflect on that last meeting of the Regeneration, Culture and Environment Committee. I just want to slightly come back to again about the matters that Councillor Lawrence mentioned earlier. Whether the comeback will be as good as England's current comeback against Sweden is for others to judge, but it was a very useful exercise, raising many concerns that Medway residents have raised with members, including the fact surround payments to senior managers in Southern Water and dividends, given the significant increases in water payments recently. As well as a number of other matters that have also been discussed about future support for Grow Medway. I also wanted to note the important work in terms of the pre-scrutiny of the air quality, but in particular the climate change action plan. I wanted to just note that the whole entire committee, including our newest member, unanimously approved that report, showing solidarity across the full chamber, including all political groups, for ensuring that we take action against the worst impacts of climate change. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any member? Councillor Halcroft-Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not usually on Regen, but I really had a fabulous time holding Southern Water to account. They are absolutely needed to be held to account. £90 million in fines since 2021, mainly for misreporting sewage, and we've already spoke about the Pentagon Centre. But my biggest committee, the one that I chair, is the Children's Overview and Scrutiny, and obviously we scrutinised housing, as already mentioned, but we grappled with the key questions, and we were really having a healthy debate about how many children are placed in temporary accommodation, what the reasons are for that, are they able to get an education even though they're in temporary accommodation, and what systems are in place so that children stay there for the least amount of time. And then we've already spoke about the protected characteristic of our care leavers, but we scrutinise the care leavers accommodation because, they are a vulnerable group in Medway and actually across the country. The statistics are grave. And the most loveliest thing, and we always celebrate this at the Children's Committee, is having our young people there. And Councillor Price is developing young people inspections of care leavers accommodation, and we had time to celebrate the recent Ofsted success. We were delighted to have the Medway Youth Council there with their 2025 report. It was also a real privilege to attend their conference with Councillor Price and Councillor Maple, which was the most inclusive and engaging conference I've been to in Medway. Thank you.
Thank you. If no other member, I'll go back to Councillor Tijan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Councillor Harker-Scott and Councillor Field for their comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 15. Councillor Van Dijk, would you like to make a proposal?
Yes, this is a report in relation to the disposal of Unit 1 Cherry Trees Court, Hemel, Hempstead. This arises as a consequence of the SITFA Resilience Review, and following declaration of this property being no longer required. It's on the list of non-operated properties, and the item is for noting because that's a requirement as the value of the property was sold at 1.82 million, and therefore it has to be recorded formally.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Mayfield, do you wish to speak now or reserve? Thank you. Councillor Hackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do recognise this report's just for noting, so I'm not going to say much at all. It just makes financial sense to do what we've done. Thank you.
No other member. Councillor Maple.
There we go. So very happy to second this, and thank you to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition for the support on this. Two quick things worth just putting on the record. Firstly, of course, this is part of the process that's come through from our excellent work with SITFA. We appreciate them, we value them, they're trusted experts in the local government field. I would much rather use them than other people. Take from that what you will. And then secondly, because some people, particularly newer councillors, might go, why on earth has Medway Council
got a property in Hemel, Hempstead, not to be confused with Hempstead and Wigmore, of course. And the rules on this have changed. So if we were looking to invest in property, the rule is clear. We can only invest in property now in the community of Medway. From the previous experiences that we had, and there are still other properties that we are retaining because it makes financial sense to, the yield is worth more than the sale would be. So this isn't a carte blanche, sell everything that's not in Medway, but in this particular case, it does make sense. The money is there for people to see, and this is part of our ongoing process of dealing with the financial situation we inherited because of the 91% cut in the revenue support grant since 2010. And of course, recognising that every year under the previous administration,
members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, for being a mayor bringing this group of individuals to account. Every year, £4 million property disposal budget, not once met. We're getting on with it, and that's why we're doing this. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Thank you. Back to the proposer, Councillor Van Dyke.
Simply to add that the receipt for sale will pay off the debt and would generate savings of £40,000 alone.
Is that agreed, members? Thank you very much. We come now to agenda item number 16. Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. The use of urgency provisions. Now, before I ask Councillor Maple to make the proposal, the Council is recommended to resolve to exclude the press and public during consideration of any information contained in the exempt appendix to this item, as set out in item 17 on page 131 of the agenda, on the basis that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. However, we will proceed to debate this item in open session unless any member indicates they wish to refer to information contained in the blue pages, at which point I will ask the Council to vote on excluding the press and public. If we do resolve to exclude the press and public, I will ask that the public gallery is cleared and that live stream broadcast is paused during the closed debate. Councillor Maple, would you like to make a proposal?
Thank you very much. I'll lay out the proposal as in paragraph 1, which is to note the use of urgency powers. This is a procedural matter. We won't be going into the blue papers as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe the opposition group are proposing that either. I've not heard anybody else wishes to. This is a straightforward process. This is an HR matter. As is sometimes the case with HR matters because of the nature of them, there is a requirement in this case for the Director of Place to take urgent decisions to ensure that we can make the best outcome ultimately both for the Council but also for the individual member of staff and their team as appropriate. Both myself and the leader of the Conservative group were consulted and therefore we come to noting the report tonight. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Thank you. Is that supported?
Yes.
Do you wish to speak now, Councillor Murray?
Yes, I continue to support this. It's a really good idea.
Thank you. Councillor Perfect, a reminder about the blue papers.
Thank you very much. I was just going to say I fully support the information contained both within the report and the exempt report, and furthermore wanted to just thank the Director of Place, Adam Bryan, and his Directorate Management team for their engagement, along with the Leader of the Council on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. We go back to the mover, Councillor Maple.
Thank you very much. Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Is that agreed, members? Before I close the meeting, I would just like to thank our live stream viewers for watching the meeting this evening. The aim was to finish by 10, and I think we have done well. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, members.